I have two. I mean, we were.
And okay, perfect. All right, I think I got this down. I think I got it. Give me one moment, everyone that's tuned in. Bear with me. I got to make sure that I got everything shared so that everyone that wants access to it has it. Channel, live, copy, share to, copy, go to the Discord. That's not the one, that one. Bam. Shared. And then here, share, and then share, and then I need a YouTube version as well. Where is it? The first few seconds of this is always just sharing as much as I can. There it is. Okay, and then share, copy link. Cool. I believe I've shared this on everything I needed to share this on. I believe it's all good to go. Cool. Okay. Let me refresh this page and then we should be ready to continue. Sweet. Alrighty. I believe I'm ready. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Alrighty. Sounds good. Well, first of all, hello everyone. It is Jose, aka Drark, and I am here with Hakume. Let me just put this on here. Yeah. Oh my god, click it. Click. I'm here with Hakume Tenshi 06, aka Angel, and that is where we get the name for the podcast from, which is Drark Angel Podcast. So welcome to another podcast, episode 2. Yay! First podcast we did last week on Friday was on Kingdom Hearts. That went fairly lengthy, but it was pretty fun. We definitely got to talk about a lot of fun and cool things in regards to Kingdom Hearts. We're hoping to do the same thing with Pokemon today, primarily targeting Generation 9. So that'll be the main goal here today. Let me go ahead and pause this music. We don't need it anymore. So yeah, did you want to do a quick introduction on your side?
No.
We good? Okay, perfect. Alrighty, so to start off, let's start off with something simple. Let's go and just essentially go over the Generation 9 expectations from the trailer. Let's just look at the trailer really quickly. I'll press play. You can see it on my stream. And then it's in a little corner up there. So you can look at it. It won't have sound because, copyright and stuff. But
I'm not looking at your stream, so I'm going to just play it on my end as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm sure Hakume's gonna have it playing on his side as well. But if you could see in
Oh
the video,
no, I will talk about this for a bit.
sure.
This trailer is like a really terrible Pokemon trailer.
It's so
Like,
deceiving.
what the hell? Like, I mean, of course, in context, it's during Pokemon Presents. Of course, it's a Pokemon related to something. But there's literally no indication of what this is. Not until. Actually, I would even say until they show the Pokemon. You're just confused the whole way through.
The whole way
Yeah,
through.
I thought it was a Detective Pikachu sequel. A lot of people thought it was a Detective Pikachu sequel, which I would have been equally down for. But it's like this dude kind of just walks into this room, and there's too much crap to like really parse out what actually is in here and stuff like that. Like you, of course, you go back to the trailer, analyze it, but like if you do, you don't really find much. There's not much that tells you like, oh, this is a new generation of Pokemon until they show you the starters.
Well, it's honestly, I really like this. I really like this trailer once it gets into the actual, um,
Yeah.
into the room. The trailer itself is okay for me. Um, just kind of looking at it, it's it's all right. But what I
Well,
really
I
like,
mostly talk about just like the build up to showing the in-game stuff.
yeah, but the stuff in the room is really what I feel gave the most information about what to expect in the game, and I feel like that's what I'm gonna mainly be touching on today in regards to the podcast. Is really just kind of going over the um, the things from that room. I feel like those are where the key elements are going to take place going forward. Let's see. Because
Yep.
like I like all the stuff that they're showing on screen here. They definitely got a lot of really cool details, and the art looks really good. It looks like it's going to be a well-made Pokemon game. So I'm really excited for that. Let's see. But this room, man, this room is everything. Like that's kind of what I want to end up breaking down here. Let me make sure I got this here. Let's see.
So like I'm looking at it, and the only really notable things I can pick up is that this symbol seems very important. I feel like this might have to do with like either maybe the evil team for this gen, some non-evil organization that you're going to be dealing with, kind of like the Aether Foundation. Except the Aether Foundation actually turned out to be evil, but like some kind of organization or something. It's really hard to see anything. Like I don't even know what anything is. It's a bunch of posters and books.
Yeah. Let's see. Open up. Okay. So just from what I saw in this trailer, there were definitely a lot of things that let me see if I can kind of get to it and just pause this and just get to the scenes that I kind of wanted to touch on. And the thing is, there's definitely been breakdowns already on the trailer and what you can expect to see here and everything. But there's other things that I kind of wanted to touch on that I've been speculating on. So to start off with, like I said, the things in the room, that's kind of where I'm starting off with, which is they have a lot of symbolism for time and location in geography. We know that it's just going to be in the Mediterranean area. We're looking at Spain, Portugal. That's going to be mainly where the game is going to be based on. But we also see that they have different clocks and time representing pieces around the room, as well as multiple different globes. You're going to have globes that are modern globes laying around the room, as well as older globes laying around the room. So this kind of is making me feel like they're definitely implying on two totally different timelines here. And I'm not sure if I'm referring to like Legends of Arceus timeline, but I am thinking that it is going to be, something that is current time based and either future or past time based. So that's kind of what I'm expecting to come across going forward when it comes to this. Um, so that's my theory right now is that um, we're looking to see some different things in regards to the game in terms of two different maps. Scarlet could be present or future or past, and Violet could be the opposite. So that's just kind of what I got thinking just from those details that I've seen. What do you think?
Um, all right. So, despite being a Kingdom Hearts fan and like being able to theorize about practically anything, I'm not picking up much from like anything that we were shown except for like just the new Pokemon game. Um, I'm not really sure what parts of the room were showing what you like. I went through it in slow motion. I still missed like everything, but we did get like a glimpse of the in-game map, and it's kind of like this really big, like seemingly just like a big island
Yeah.
that's not connected to anything, and it's like a big, massive land. It's not like previous gens where you have like all the routes and the winding roads and shit. It's literally just like giant, like plains of area, and
Yeah.
they show you that, of course, but the map kind of like gives you a hint that like the whole region's kind of like that. Like
Yeah.
it's just big and open.
Well, what I did is I paused on the scene that I was referring to, so that you can kind of get some context here. If you're looking at my stream, you're gonna see that the officer or whatever the heck he is, security guard, he's kind of like frightened, like, well, what was that? But the room is essentially split in two behind him. On If you look at the door, that's gonna essentially be the direction you get to choose, whether left or right. If you go left, you're gonna see the scarlet plaque, and if you look to the right of the door, you're going to see the violet plaque. Now, to the right, where the scarlet plaque is, if you look on that side, the room is fully divided. There's contents on one side of the room, and there's content on the other side of the room, and almost nothing in the middle except for the player himself. And in the side where the scarlet content is, there is a globe there. And from the looks of it, it is an older state globe. And it looks like a lot of the items there are more traditional, like books and things of that nature. I don't really feel like there's too much heavy involvement. Um, but it is still somewhat more modern than the one on the right. If you go to the right side, there's a different globe there. It's a different type of globe, and it looks like it's a bit more modern. And I'm sorry, not more modern, but like it doesn't have like the sphere thing on the top, so it looks like it's less modern. Is what I meant to say. And on that side, that's where you actually see scrolls and things like that. So I do feel that there is some significance behind this imagery right here in this scene where it's literally splitting the room into two sides where the plaques are kind of representing what's on each side. And one has older looking materials compared to the other, in my opinion. So that's kind of where my theory is coming from, that it is going to be somewhat um, you could either say it's either going to be somewhat location based that they're splitting it up for, like Spain/Portugal, or time based. And I say time based because they did show a lot of clocks and things of that nature to kind of represent time. So it could really also be that as well, in my opinion. And that's kind of what I'm going off of.
Um, Not to discredit anything you're saying, like I can't really argue against your theories and whatnot. But for me, it's like I don't think I've ever known Game Freak to be this like mysterious about a mainline Pokemon game. And when they are trying to be mysterious, like like a few years back, there was like this random Japanese trailer, which like was only mysterious as because the Japanese who cared. But it was like the weirdest trailer. It was talking about aliens and it had this weird like seemingly Gen 5 sprite of some weird like alien Pokemon that we've never seen before. And it almost seemed like it was hinting at like a new generation Pokemon or maybe a new mystery dungeon. It was like I don't remember what it was. It ended up turning out to be like almost nothing.
Yeah.
for some like Japanese only event or something. So like for these, I don't feel any personal need to like look too deep into like what's in the room and see if it's like is some hint of what's going on. I don't have that much. I don't want to give them that much credit to
Okay.
make them to make them seem like they're like these mystery masterminds, you know.
Well, that's fair. Like I said, this is just speculations and theories at this point, so it's not
Yeah.
like it's anything crazy. This is just kind of what I picked up from watching this. But the other thing is, if I really just get into it, I don't know if you recall, but a while ago there were a lot of theories coming out, and this is like before Shield. I almost want to like this is around Aura's time. I want to say there was a lot of speculations about Pokemon games at the time that were going to be coming out with time travel. Um, and we were all just like there's not going to be such thing. However, at the time we didn't know for sure, so a lot of theories were coming out where people were thinking that they were going to make the connections between XY and a new location, because a lot of the maps connect in that area. So there were a lot of theories talking about how there was going to be some kind of time traveling sequences there. And the other thing is that from what the theories were saying, it sounded like it was going to be like you'd have the ability to go back and forth between the time lapse or the time frames. It wasn't just like you got teleported one time and that was it. And then, of course, nothing ended up having to do with time travel or anything like that at that time. But then, as we know, we got Arceus, which literally sends you back quite a while. So I
And that's
don't
the thing with that.
I don't want to
Um,
discredit them, or I'm not trying to give them credit either, but I am thinking that a lot of times the information that gets leaked doesn't necessarily pertain to the current game being worked on, and it could pertain to some projects that they may be discussing or working on for the future, if
it
that's
may
the
pertain
case.
to like an idea that they had that they
Yeah.
wanted to
And the
use.
thing is, a lot of this, and it's been proven already that a lot of the times that they come up with like ideas and concepts and things like that, they actually they don't scrap the ideas. Sometimes they save them for the next game. So like or they do that for Pokemon as well. When they create a Pokemon, they might like the design, but they might not feel it fits this generation, so they might save it for the next generation. So they do things like that. So there's a possibility that a lot of the theories that were being thrown out back then about time travel could have been something that really was happening. It's just that either it got pushed forward, or they were just talking about a different game in general, or maybe they decided to not use it for whatever that game was and push it for something different. So that could have been what happened. If that's the case, again, I'm just speculating. I can't give credit unless I know. They were like, "Yep, that was exactly what happened." We don't know that. So, um, but nonetheless, with all of that context in mind, and then watching this trailer, that's what I got off of it. That's the vibe I got off of all the information that I was receiving off of this.
Um, so yeah, I can't say anything about the like the validity of any of this stuff, any of that stuff.
Yeah.
But like, Pokemon has a weird history with introducing like a concept or an idea, and that concept or idea, when it's introduced in whatever game that it's introduced in, just isn't complete. So like, you kind of expected that there's more to come out of it, like later on down the line. Like most prominent example is Zygarde as a whole, like his entire deal. Like Pokemon X, Pokemon Y came out, and at the time we were still expecting like, hey, they're gonna do the two versions, and then there's gonna be like that one definitive version that comes out, like always in
Yeah.
Pokemon Z. It's like the most obvious shit, and like, lo and behold, there's this whole legendary who's in both games. Name starts with the Z. Is the Z Pokemon like super prominent, but doesn't really have backstory? There has to be a game for this motherfucker.
Yeah.
Never happened. Then Sun and Moon came out. Zygarde has this very weird like prominence in Sun and Moon, where like they give you this thing where it's like you got to collect his cells and you get like the special version of Zygarde, but there's like zero backstory for
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
And it's like, what the fuck happened to this Pokemon?
Yeah.
Like, there was it was obviously going to be something.
Yeah.
But they just let it fall flat.
Yeah. Well, that kind of goes to what I was saying, though, that they sometimes have great ideas. They just end up, not really knowing when to apply it or deciding to apply it later, whether it makes sense or not.
Yeah. And then there's like the whole time travel thing. Honestly, the thing with that is that, for one thing, we've done it already. Like, in Heart Gold Soul Silver, you go back in time with Celebi.
Yeah.
And you get to meet Giovanni back in the day.
Yeah.
Back in time.
Yeah.
And honestly, the whole time travel aspect, like, it's not a bad idea, but it's kind of one of those, like, well, we know that we're going to get Diamond and Pearl remakes eventually.
Yeah.
And the legendaries in those games involve space and time.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, if there is some kind of time travel aspect within the game, it only makes sense for it to be a part of, like, Gen 4 specifically, because those are the time, space and time Pokemon.
Yeah.
And I feel like that time is past now, Like, the opportunity to take advantage of that concept, like, Arceus was the time to do it.
Yeah.
And they kind of did it.
They did. They did this thing where, to get Arceus and Diamond and Pearl, the remakes for them, the new ones, you actually have to get Arceus in Legends of Arceus, and like the opposite happens for Darkrai, where if you want Darkrai and Arceus, you got to get it in Diamond and Pearl, and like the save data in the system checks it, and then it becomes available in the other games. So I get that it's the tired trope, but it is one that they have been doing for a long time, and they're currently doing again. So I'm just like, I'm not knocking it out of possibility, I guess.
But the way you explained it is that it made it sound like that was going to be like some kind of active mechanic that you can utilize in the game. Kind of like Legend of Zelda, where you usually in a Zelda game, you can go back and forth between two different worlds.
Yeah.
Time is the Dark World, where you go to the future where Ganon already won.
Yeah.
Go back and forth between time. They haven't done that for Pokemon yet, and I'm kind of surprised that they haven't. Like, the Gen 4 remakes would have been the perfect opportunity to do it, but they just didn't. It's like, okay. If they do that for Scarlet and Violet, why though?
Well, again, when I first saw this, my initial thought was one game would be based in the past, one game would be based in current time frame, or current time frame in future. That was my initial thought. But then revisiting context, just so you know that I have all the information that I can think of for this conversation, I remembered that they mentioned a few times in different theories that the gameplay mechanic would have involved time traveling back and forth multiple times. And so it's not that that's exactly what this is going to be. It's just it's something I didn't want to leave under rubble. I kind of want to just make sure that it got brought into the surface as a potential thing that they might look to do, because it is something that was speculated back in the day. It was presented as a theory, and as a reveal on something that we were going to expect in the games. It just didn't end up happening with that specific game. So, but seeing how they are revisiting time travel trope again, I don't want to just leave it, in the dust. If it's something that can become relevant again, I just kind of wanted to bring it to light.
Now, I have an idea of how they could, assuming that they do.
Yeah.
I don't believe that they will, but if they do, what I would hope that they would do is something along the lines of Dream World. Do you remember Dream World Gen 5?
Yeah. I remember now.
They have like a whole website that you can just browse the games and get like exclusive Pokemon. Something like that. Or some kind of, because like I think the Diamond Pro remix, actually, even Aura has some kind of like, hey, the Pokemon that aren't usually in the region? Well, there's this whole special area you could go to where you can get Pokemon that we can't find.
Yeah.
Like the hidden bases in the underground stuff like that. Maybe they could do something with like you go back in time and find like Hisuian versions of like Pokemon that's in this region, but not in Hisui.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
Alolan versions or some shit like that.
It's possible. I think that is definitely something that they could aim to do. I'm not again, and this is just speculation based on this. I don't feel like there's enough reason for them to really focus on the design that they chose to for this room and the globes having so many spread out and the timepieces and everything the way they did. I don't feel like they did that for no reason. I don't feel like they just put it there just because they want to put shit in the room to make you feel like it's the exploration of the world. I don't think that's what they were going for. Um, so just trying
I,
to make the most sense out of it. Hmm?
I'm not saying that absolutely everything in the room is meaningless. I did
Hmm.
catch the second time going through it. There is a logo of what looks like could be EV2. Like I mentioned it before, but it's not the one that I'm talking about. Like there's one logo in near the beginning of when we're being introduced into a room. It's like a chair and like a piece of cloth and it has like this weird spider webby
Yeah.
logo.
Yeah.
I was talking about that initially. But later on, when like he starts freaking out and they start zooming in on like the random crap that's in the room,
Yeah.
there is where is it? It's in here somewhere. Try to catch it. The hell, did I miss it? I must have missed it. But I'm pretty sure it was like a star logo with an S in it. And it seemed to stick out like past like most of the random crap that's in the room. It's really hard to spot.
Let me know if you spot it.
Like, okay, the worst part is I know exactly where it is in the room, but I'm trying to find the camera angle which shows
that shows it, yeah.
Like in this overhead shot, it's like this image right here, this like picture frame that he's like flashing his light on right here. But I need the angle to shoot. There is a close-up shot in here somewhere. It's like a star, and there's an S sort of shaped like a thunderbolt. But I need the shot of that table.
Yeah.
Am I bugging?
I'm looking too, seeing if I can see anything.
Is it after stuff?
It could be after, yeah.
There it is, right here. It's like a random picture frame. It is like a logo.
Yeah. So I've seen some speculations on that. And from what I hear, it could be the next mechanic per se for the Pokemon series, such as Mega Evolutions, Dynamax, Z Power attacks, that random shit that they do in every Pokemon game. That could be something that they're kind of aiming for. So that's kind of what I'm leaving that item specifically to be. Is something for that. That's as much as I can think of in regards to that, though.
This looks too much like a Evil Team logo to me. It's so designed, Unlike everything else in this room. Like, you can find a lot of this stuff anywhere, but this thing was made. Like, this was designed by somebody.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. It seems so obvious it has to be like an Evil Team or something.
That could be that too. That could be that too. It could be like the Evil Team logo for whatever, this generations of evil people is going to be, whatever it is. But just based on the location, honestly, I wouldn't be too surprised if it's like a reuse of a different team,
I hope not.
I kind of do, because I get that there's a generation a new generation for every location, but how many like evil groups are there? Like, that's excessive in my opinion. Like, and then like I know, but that's what I'm saying.
How many gangs are in Buffalo, New York?
But that's not the point. The point is, there's way too many people trying to, dominate the world in this series. Like Giovanni. All right, that's one. He's the original. It makes sense.
You
Um,
didn't want world domination. You just want money.
yeah, he just well, I mean, you rule the world with money, so I guess. And then you got, and then you got the people with their ideologies and just really excuses at that point going forward. But
Is that not real life though?
I guess I don't know. I'm not very fond of so many teams. Like I think the only one that I was actually okay with was the Gen 8 one because there really wasn't an evil organization. It was just a, gang of kids that just caused trouble. But that's it. They weren't serious, they weren't doing anything, they weren't causing any real problems. So it's that was just about as much as I really hope to see. If it's going to be an actual evil organization, then I'd like to see something closer to, Team Rocket or something along those lines.
I don't remember what the Aether Foundation's deal was.
Yeah, that's another thing. They aren't I wouldn't even consider them like an organization like Team Rocket. They just had their own agenda. They just had like their own thing they wanted to do, but um
That was a way of trying to like spice things up because like Team Skull was like, this is obviously the Team Rocket of this game,
yeah.
but like not because they're just misunderstood teenagers. They're just misguided,
Yeah.
and this foundation that you've been working for, kind of, which seemed to be the good guys, just seemed to be innocent researchers, turned out to be like, you know, crazy fuckheads. But, like, what was their deal? I thought it was just like, oh, we're just researching Ultra Beasts.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Capture Ultra Beasts. Okay, what's wrong with that? And this one just lost her fucking mind.
Okay. Okay, so we got a little bit of our ideas on what we wanted in regards to Generation 9. Let's break this down a little bit further. Let's start off with providing some context for us in regards to what we know about Pokemon.
Yeah, I don't feel like we actually got started yet.
No, I know, but we're going to get started after this. I just wanted to kind of backtrack a little bit and go over the history of Pokemon for ourselves in regards to your personal experience, how you started, and what it has done for you as a series. You can go first.
Yeah. Okay, is that the whole question? All right. Proof. Um, see, with the Kingdom Hearts one, we kind of started off with our history because everybody I know seems to have a different history with Kingdom Hearts. Like,
Yeah.
everyone I know started with the second game somehow. Like, we're super confused and just couldn't get into it. But most Pokemon is such a formulated game. And I don't mean that in like an insulting way, but Pokemon is so formulaic that no matter where you start from, you essentially have the same exact story as everyone else that got Pokemon. Like, I started from the beginning, of course. Like, I started with Pokemon Red, but like I know people who never touched Pokemon game until like Gen 6, and they probably tell you the same exact story I did. It's like, oh man, I played the game, it was fun, I loved the Pokemon, I started making my own team, I fell in love with them, I got attached to these random digital creatures that don't really exist. It's like, yeah, like, game is just wholesome. It's like ultimate wholesome ass game.
Yeah.
And like, I think the one thing that Pokemon does better than most other like monster taming games is just bring people together. As cheesy as it sounds, like that's what it does. And this isn't so much getting into like my history, but it's more like current day. I'm very what's the word? scarred from Sword and Shield. Sword and Shield very much killed a lot of my hype for Pokemon. I don't know if you've heard me say this rant, but I know many people have already heard me rant about this already.
Yeah.
But like, the reason why Pokemon is so good at keeping people connected is because the games themselves are all connected, and the function of just like being able to like keep your Pokemon and transfer them from game to game to game gives it this like grandiose sense where it's like the game is way bigger than like the one individual burden that you're playing. It's essentially just like a single player MMO that's like only disconnected for as long as you choose to just like play by yourself. At any time, you can just find anybody around the corner who's playing Pokemon because everybody's playing Pokemon, and just like hang out, chill with them, trade, battle, whatever. And like, so long as you're playing like the same version, the same gen, uh, everything's all peachy keen. And Sword and Shield fucked that up for seemingly no reason, or whatever the reason was, god awful reason. It's literally the selling point of the franchise. Like the whole reason you play Pokemon, you know. Say what you will about like the campaign itself and the story or whatever. I don't know who plays Pokemon for the story, but like you're playing it for the Pokemon, you know? It's the name of the game. So it's like, why would you get rid of that? So when it comes to my expectations for Gen 9, they definitely need to rebuild that bridge. They need to restore that connectivity. Pokemon Home exists. I have no idea what it's for. Like, it seems like they had this idea where it's like, okay, we're going to use Pokemon Home as like a future version of Pokemon Bank that you get to pay a service for. We can hold your Pokemon, you can transfer whatever to whatever version you want. And it just ended up not being that. And I don't like the idea of having to use Pokemon Home just because of how useless it's been for like the last 3 years. But like, if they could just make it useful by making it compatible with Scarlet and Violet, and then Sword and Shield, and then maybe the generation before that, maybe Sun and Moon, who knows? Because people still like have those games. Like people still have access to those games because they're connected. Like I don't know why. I don't know. I feel like there was a time where it was kind of obvious that like Nintendo was trying to get people to just move on into the next gen. It's like, okay, just move on. Stop playing old games. This is the new game. Buy our new stuff. But it's like the games are not made for that. They're literally designed for the polar opposite. They want you to be able to just play from anywhere and then just keep on moving. That needs to be restored for Gen 9, 100%. That's like the number one key. That's like a deal breaker for me at this point. Like, if you can't do that, I just can't be invested in this generation. I already skipped Gen 8 completely because of it. What was the other part of those? You asked me like a series of questions.
It was mainly too just your history of Pokemon and how it's influenced your life.
History and influence. Okay, yeah. I'm sure everyone who is into Pokemon can say this, but like, you know, I met all my friends through Pokemon. Or at the very least, it's so easy to make friends with Pokemon because everyone's playing it.
Yeah.
Like, it's like the ultimate just get people together. Like, remember when Pokemon Go came out? Like, holy crap! Like, yeah. Pokemon Go came out, and
the world knew peace.
Dude, like,
for the first time in humanity.
Yeah, I'm a reclusive hermit. I don't go outside for nothing. But like, I was at a park with like fucking 100 people or so, and we're all just camped around the same like 3 Pokestops, just hanging out, talking, chilling, stuff like that, being social. Like that was the most social I've ever been in my life. It probably never happen again.
That's funny.
Like, that's the power of Pokemon, man. Like, I don't think I have any sort of special influence that I have that no one else had. That's kind of like what's special about Pokemon itself, you know?
Yeah, for me, I was, man, it's just a little fletchling when I first started playing. Actually, I believe I originally got into the anime first, and I was really into it. But I didn't even know they had a game. And my friend, he had Pokemon Blue, I believe it was, and he let me play it for a little bit, and man, oh man, I got sucked in right away. I'm telling you, I was just like, I don't know what this is, but I need it now. And like I told my mom, I was like, we need to get this. And it's like, I don't know, about a week later, she took us to the store and she got us the Nintendo the Game Boy Advance. That's what it was, I believe. And like originally I had asked for Blue as well because that's the one that I ended up playing and I really liked. But the guy at the store was just like, "Well, there's a newer game that's out now if you want it." And he was like, "It's like the gold and silver." And I was just like, "Fuck it, I'll take the new one." And I ended up getting gold. My sister got silver, and yeah, man, I was hooked since then. And I didn't even really understand like the Pokemon games that well back then because I literally just started. But I remember that I started off with like the game itself just started me off with the three legendary birds, Ho-Oh and Lugia, and then my starter, which was a Totodile. And they were all like level 5 at the very beginning of the game. That's what I started off the game with. And I was just like, oh, sweet. And then I played, but I was so naive. I wanted to start with Cyndaquil because Cyndaquil was my favorite starter back in the day. And so I was just like, do I want to keep these really cool Pokemon that I have that started me off with? Or do I want to restart the game to get my Cyndaquil? And like an idiot I was, I restarted it to get my Cyndaquil. And I still remember the nickname I gave it. It was BB, and I was obsessed with it. And yeah, I went through. I did so much, man. That was my favorite, and I didn't regret it at all. But in hindsight, that was really stupid of me, you know. um, I don't know if they had any like rarity about them, but yeah, it was definitely really cool. It was definitely really fun. Um, since then, I've just become a Pokemon addict. I started playing the card game, although back then the card game is totally different than what the card game is now. Then at that time, you really just collected it because the battle aspect of it wasn't that fun, at least to me. Um, but you know, they did have some cool Pokemons that I liked, so that was fun. But then after that, I kind of just stopped with the Pokemon cards because Yu-Gi-Oh came out, and you know, Yu-Gi-Oh took over the card industry. So, but I still played the games. Excuse me, I still played the Pokemon games religiously. I loved them. They were so fun, and yeah, that's honestly it changed my life forever. To this day, it's been I don't even know what is it like 20 years now, and I still play Pokemon. You know, or you know, close to some close some like that. Um, and then yeah, so that's pretty much the history and the influence it's had on me. As you can see, most of the things that I stream ends up being Pokemon. Most of the things that I collect ends up being Pokemon. Most of the things that I play, games that I actually finish, end up being Pokemon. So you know, it's just that's the that's probably my number one favorite thing is the Pokemon series. So, um, but yeah, and as you could, that influence when you have your favorite thing become that it influences your life significantly. Yeah, I try to play every Pokemon game there is. Sometimes excessively. Like if a game comes out with two different versions, I get them both. And if it comes out with a definitive version, I get that too. Cause fuck it, you know. That's why. um, and I feel like that's what a lot of people do. So, but yeah. In regards to what you were saying about what Pokemon has become, Pokemon has had a very complicated relationship with its partners in the game creating business, such as Game Freak and Monsters Inc. Not Monsters Inc. Creatures Inc. Uh, so it's been a very interesting relationship they've had with Nintendo, and when the concept of dishing out a new game every year became a thing, um, Game Freak was like, hell yeah, that's money, like every year we just gotta pop something out and we get paid, that's solid. They didn't take into account that every year technology was going to drastically get better and better, which means that what they produced had to get drastically better and better, which means that the staff that they were working with had to either increase or get real good real fast. And it wasn't, they were able to kind of keep up with that pressure until the transition to the Switch came about. That's when they were just like, all right, now this is a totally new engine, totally new system we're working with. This is just, it's a whole nother beast we got to tackle. This is significantly harder. However, the contract stayed the same. You want to keep your company, then you got to start producing the same quality into a new gen, but better, and still every year. And so Game Freak had a lot of decisions they had to make, such as increasing staff and splitting their staff, because they, at a point, really said, "We're not going to be able to keep up. Not with not with this amount of pressure. Not with this amount of um, stuff that they're requiring from us to do." So they split their staff, and they actually started working on other third-party games that they were really hoping would take off, because if they could have a different product that wasn't Pokemon, then they didn't need to depend on Nintendo. But as we know, you can't just leave Pokemon. It's impossible. Like, you made it, that's it. You're stuck with it. So it failed. It didn't like fail, but it failed, So it, you don't even, I bet you can't name me one other game that Game Freak has created, because it's eclipsed by Pokemon easily. So therefore they were just like, all right, fuck it, we can't. So they've regressed and put all their energy and focus back into the Pokemon franchise, and the best they could do is kind of rework their contract so that they can provide a better time sense of what they can produce with the new technology. But also they were able to kind of work with them in regards to getting better staff, better trained staff, better technology, and create better plans so that they can produce the product that they needed in a timely fashion. That's where you see that they had teams that specifically work on DLC pieces, as well as different parts of the games, while the main team works on the core games. So that's kind of what they ended up having to do to just try to mitigate the pressure that they had with all the games coming forward. But then that's also where a lot of the problems come in, because they mentioned that they wanted to really focus. They really wanted to focus on creating the best that they could for this new generation in terms of Pokemon. However, they were still under the pressure of dishing out something every year. That's never going to change. Nintendo will not give them a break on that. It's a stronghold they have on them. But essentially, what they ended up having to do is, the report came out that they were going to put a lot of effort into recreating the new sprites and animations for the Pokemon going forward. However, they didn't say that it was going to be for this next game coming out. They just said they were working on it for Pokemon games going forward. However, as consumers, we hear something like new sprites, and we immediately assume it's for the next game, and we immediately assume it's everything, and it's going to be perfect, and it's already done, and it's going to be now. So that brought a lot of heat, because they ended up having to deal with a lot of backlash for a product that they were not ready to present, at least not then. That is something they definitely had in mind to do. It's just that they didn't have in mind to do that now. So they had to do a lot of reworking with Nintendo so that way they could take a lot of the heat off. And hence the DLC patches came along.
So I have to address that real quick though.
What's up?
Do you think it was a good idea saying anything at all?
The thing is,
You think it would have come out better if they just kept their mouth shut?
Yes and no. Yes, because if they didn't say anything, there wouldn't have been expectations. But if you think about it, there's always expectations. Absolutely always. And the thing is, they were never going to, uh, like, I'm sorry, not never. They were always going to make it a limited dex this next game. So it was still going to be a piece of controversy, while whether they admitted it or not that the update they were, or the updated sprites that they were going to do were going to be for this game or not. That was still going to be an issue. So I just don't think they realized how big of an issue that was going to be for people. I don't think they realized how much backlash they were going to get for that. And then the fact that, someone else said, yeah, now that we reworked our contract, we're going to be able to create new sprites for the Pokemon games going forward and everything. They didn't expect that to also be like, oh, this next game is going to have new sprites. Awesome. And so they were just like, didn't say that. But oh well, that's what the fandom took. And oh god, the amount of backlash that they took, that was pretty hard. So I I understand the the concern that the fan base has with the limited decks. I do. I'm someone that's always enjoyed having the full decks, and it does actually cause a problem for apps like the Pokemon Home app. If you had a national dex on the current games, then the apps like Pokemon Home would work flawlessly because you could then go back and forth between all the games and transfer everything all the time. Excuse me, but because it is limited, Pokemon Home becomes limited, and therefore Pokemon Home doesn't have the same value that something like Pokemon Bank did back in the day. Pokemon Bank didn't have that issue back in the day because everything was, national decks back then. But then again, the decks was a lot smaller back then, so that wasn't really something of major concern. But yeah, so that ended up happening, and then they were just like, you know what? Let's try to ignore the media. Let's try to ignore the crazy noise that everyone is spewing at us right now. Let's just provide the content we could provide for them right now. So they gave us Sword and Shield, and Sword and Shield was actually pretty good. The game itself, the story was decent. The Pokemon were very creative. I loved a lot of the designs for the Pokemon. Not all of them, but what generation has a perfect set of Pokemon? But they had a really good set of Pokemon there. A very large list of them too. Say that again.
What? No. Keep up.
Oh, they had a really large selection of Pokemon available in terms of the new gen stuff. So that was actually pretty cool. And then the Gigantamax mechanic, I wasn't a fan of at first, but the more you played it, you were just like, you know what, it's fun. You get to interact with other people in a new way. And so it's a different mechanic that I didn't think was going to work, but it ended up actually making the game worthwhile, fun, and interesting. It's just a new look overall. And I feel like that was also the first time they really tried open world, not to the full extent that we've seen recently, but just the concept of being able to kind of just explore beyond regular means. So I thought that was cool. They did a lot of innovative things there with that. So yeah, I really like that game for that reason. But it did have the problem of the national dex not being there. Um, that sucked because a lot of people's favorite Pokemon are in the national dex, and if you don't have them all, then not everyone is happy. I know I wasn't happy when Metagross wasn't in there initially because that's my favorite Pokemon, and I was very, very sad. But I wasn't like distraught about it because First of all, it's just a game. Second of all, I was just like, um, the stuff that they have provided me this time is good, and I know that if it's not on this game, more than likely it'll be on the next one. So, and I feel like the reason personally I was more patient with them was because it was the first core title, main core title game for the Switch. So I felt like it was almost my responsibility to be lenient on the first one to try to catch up with the technology. Because creating a game um, base model from scratch is not an easy thing to do. But I feel like now that they do have that, now that they do have a base model, they do have a core world, a core kind of mechanic and placing and everything, I do expect more from them now. That I will say. I was a lot more lenient with them the first time because it was the first one on the Switch, the main core title like that. But for this game going forward, I do expect more. I do expect them to um, actually try to refine a lot of the details they didn't refine before. I feel like the team doesn't have to work from scratch on the new games. They can just focus on what they have already and just kind of tune it to make it better. Um, about the decks, though, from what I see, a lot of the new sprites are definitely being used in this game. We got some new sprites, some new materials being used for the art. So it's really cool to see textures in these Pokemon
Survivor
now.
has scales now.
I know, like
You
it's
see
really,
that shit?
yeah, it's really cool to see. It's really cool to see that they finally added textures and materials to the Pokemon now. Um, I and this might sound greedy, but I feel like I will be slightly disappointed if it's only for some Pokemon, because I feel like I was very lenient with them with with Sword and Shield because Sword and Shield was the new one, so I didn't expect them to have everything that they were mentioning that game. I even knew that it wasn't really going to pertain to that game specifically, just games going forward. But this is Generation 9. They have a base, they have models already of what they were trying to do, they have a couple of different ideas. They did Arceus, and now they have a new generation. So I expect that all those things that they were talking about to be applied to the Pokemon in this generation. Even if this generation will also not have a national dex, even if that's the case, the Pokemon that will be in this game, I expect for them all to have the quality that we saw with Survivor, for example, because the Survivor looked fucking amazing. um, but that's the point. I don't want to see like three Pokemon get it. They literally put in the trailer the two Pokemon that actually have, solid freaking textures materials put into them. So, essentially that's kind of my main thing is I gave them that leniency in the first game because I know that it was the first main game for the console, and the work that it takes to create something from scratch is different than the work that it takes to take something and just change the colors and change the layout a little bit. It's totally different amount of work, which allows you to do more in the game in general. So my expectations for Gen 9 are significantly higher in contrast to what I expected from Sword and Shield, which is why I wasn't so disappointed from Sword and Shield, because with the lack of expectation, they delivered, on what I was hoping that they did. They delivered. And then on top of that, they still gave me Metagross. It took a DLC to do it, but they still gave me Metagross. So I was okay. I was like, you know what? That was my gripe right there. That's okay. Um, I hope that because from what I've seen, it's already somewhat confirmed. I don't want to say fully confirmed because the writing was vague enough for to me at least for it to be like maybe we just misinterpreted it. But it does seem like they're suggesting that it's not going to have a national dex from what I've seen. And okay, but I do expect them to have a bigger dex than they had before, and then I expect that if there will be DLCs, that the DLCs will provide us with the rest of them. Because if they want to go the DLC route, I'm not necessarily mad about it. As long as it's gonna have all the new, um, you know, Pokemon in it, besides one or two legendaries like they did for the last game. Um, I don't mind the DLC concept. I thought it provided something fun. And the reason that I like the DLC concept is because, again, it provides them the opportunity to work on the next core game longer. I don't want them to do, Generation 9 this year, Generation 10 the next year, and shit like that. I don't want that. I want them, if they're going to be making more generations going forward, for them to really take their time on making that game significantly better than this one. So if you got to do a DLC in the meantime, if you got to do non-core title games in the meantime, that's fine, as long as the next game gets worked on more extensively, which is what I feel they were doing with this one. So that being said, I'm really, really hoping that this game delivers more than X and Y did, because my expectations for it will definitely be a lot higher.
Alright, here's why all of that is bullshit. Remember what the hell you said. Okay. I think people miss the point of the national decks. Because when people, like, alright, when the backlash hit about the national decks, it wasn't like a universal, like, oh my god, this is terrible, the franchise is dead, blah, blah, blah. It was like a half and half of, like, people who are upset, which, like, that was the half I was in. And the other people who kind of just didn't understand, like, why it's a big deal. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, who cares if there's no national decks? It's still, like, new Pokemon. It's a new
yeah, I was in that half. I really couldn't care less.
Yeah. So the thing about it is, the point of the national decks isn't so that, like, oh, we want every single Pokemon that has ever been made in this game in particular. It's like, no. The national decks, or at the very least, what it always was before, was kind of just like an achievement of, like, okay, if you fill the national deck, you get this achievement, you get the shiny charm or whatever. But, like, what the whole controversy of Sword and Shield has turned the national decks into, which it wasn't even before, they made it into this. They've now made it into, this is what facilitates the interconnectivity of all your Pokemon games. Because there is no national decks anymore, we're just not going to put the Pokemon that aren't in the regional decks in the game at all until we release DLC. And, like, that's stupid. It's incredibly stupid.
That kind of contradicts that statement, though. How can you not feel like it's a big deal, but then it's not in the game and it's a big deal? It was never in the game. That's what it means to not have a national dex. Or was there a different definition of not having a national dex?
There was always a national dex, but because this had never been a problem before, now that we don't have the national dex, now we have a different appreciation of it. Because it's like,
we're spoiled. That's it. That's all it is. We're spoiled.
The reason you play Pokemon is fucking gone.
That is not like, the reason everyone plays Pokemon.
All the things of, like, all right, I understand if they had to cut something. This is like going to Sprout Tower and be like, we need to renovate Sprout Tower. What are we gonna do? Let's take out this big annoying pillar in the middle. Like, whack. And it's like, what the fuck? Like, that's like the whole tower.
Yeah, but the pillar isn't gonna make or break the game. I'm gonna enjoy the tower either way. And matter of fact, I believe in Soul Silver and Heart Gold, you don't actually see the pillar. It's just like a big black hole that you gotta walk around.
Man. And duh, it's not the reason why it's why I play Pokemon. It's subjective. That's what podcast is.
Yeah.
But, like, that's because, like, here's the thing. I say this all the time. The one thing that Pokemon has over every other Monster Training franchise, because there's plenty of others, Digimon, Yokai Watch, still Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh's still going strong. Like, probably a bunch of shit that we never even heard of. Neopets, whatever. Like,
Temtem.
Pokemon is the only one out of all of those games that have this widespread interconnectivity between all the games. You can literally play Pokemon Red for the Game Boy Color, not necessarily on a physical Game Boy Color. You would need the 3DS version. But you can play Pokemon Red, take your Charmander, raise up to a Charizard, and transfer that motherfucker all the way up to Ultra Sun.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and like that's a nice feature now, but when you've kind of lived through the process of the evolution of Pokemon, like that's a pretty big fucking deal. Like being able to keep your babies like all the time, like it's just it's the way the game makes you feel. The fact that like you have this really nice, basically universe in your pocket that you have access to.
Yeah.
And there's like little features like Join Avenue and Black and White 2 that just like little things like that kind of just like spices up even more. It's like it's almost like there's like an alternate universe that you're living in when you're playing Pokemon or playing with other people playing Pokemon. And the reason why I hate playing like Pokemon games like on an emulator or anything like that is because it's so isolated. It's so isolated because you can't do any of that shit. Like, yeah, I could play Pokemon Emerald. I could play any of the old Pokemon games, but it's like, what would be the point? Once I'm done, I'm done. I'm probably never gonna touch it again.
Yeah.
You know? Like the campaign for Pokemon isn't that interesting for me to like want to just go through it multiple times. It's like the whole point is like you go through it and then you continue playing your adventure for as long as you feel like it. The post game is the real game, really. Like, because if you're still like people who are going to beat Legends Arceus or have already beat it are still playing it. It's like it's not like, oh, I'm done with Legends Arceus, I'm never gonna touch this bitch again. It's like, no, you're gonna keep playing because that's like how the games are functioning. But it's like just having that interconnectivity is a part of what drives you to continue playing these games. And they've made this mistake before, although that time that was actually excusable because they really had like technical difficulties making the games interconnectable. Gold and Silver, you cannot transfer Pokemon into Ruby and Sapphire, and that sucked back then. That made me not want to play that game either. Like I almost skipped Gen 3 completely because of that whole idea. I had Pokemon Gold, I had all these Pokemon that I fell in love with, and these are my babies, and like I'm gonna keep them. In fact, I couldn't do that, and also there was no second region and shit like that. Like a lot of things that kind of just weren't in Gen 3. Um, Made me not want to play it. And yeah, that's my fault too. A bunch of like expectations that I created for myself, but that was the first time. Then going onward, like from Fire Red, Leaf Green, and so on, you know, the game's kind of holding on to, you know, what makes the game so special. Obviously, you would expect the thing that makes the game so special to be there, you know, because like otherwise, I could just be playing SMT. I could be playing Digimon. I could be playing Yokai Watch. I could be playing any other monster taming bullshit.
All right,
But like,
so I definitely understand what you're saying, but I also feel like that does contradict itself because people pick Pokemon because of the gameplay and because of the Pokemon specifically, not because of the features necessarily. Because I loved blue, I loved gold, I loved them all, and I didn't, feel compelled to try something else because I loved those specific Pokemon and I loved the gameplay I had with them. So I didn't feel that if I lost on them that would be the end of the world. And the other thing is everyone enjoys something different about the Pokemon series because for some people the post game is the real game. That's not the case for everyone. For me personally, I'm not a huge fan of the post game. I really couldn't care less. Matter of fact, it wasn't until recently that I even gave a crap about collecting all the Pokemon. I remember I was just happy to freaking go through the story. I enjoyed the story. Not that the story was fantastic, but I liked the idea of training and leveling up and then battling and then beating the game and, got the Elite Four and became the champion. I loved that. And honestly, I didn't even care about EVs or IVs. I loved coming across a random Pokemon I found in the wild, good or bad EVs or IVs, leveling it up, and then working my way through the game to, complete it. And that's it. That's what I really enjoyed about the game. I didn't like competitive because competitive just was too much and I didn't really feel like digging into it. Eventually I did competitive and I became a champion a few times and it was fun. But it's not the do or die mechanic that I love about the game. It's the feel about the normal gameplay mechanic that you get out of a Pokemon game, as well as the Pokemon themselves for me. And so I truly, truly enjoy what the games do. Now, I understand that it sucks that you can't transfer certain Pokemon to certain generations, but to me, that doesn't make or break a game. If I can't get a specific Pokemon in a game, I'm not going to stop. For example, um, I have a Pichu in my Heart Gold game that I cannot trade because it's the Pichu with the three spikes on its ears instead of the one. And
Well, you
so
literally can't trade
yeah,
it.
so you literally
That's the
can't
blizzard
trade
thing.
that. That Pichu is it's it's the one of its kind, and I don't know how many people still have that Pichu, but I still do in my Heart Gold game, and I will never restart that game because that Pichu will be gone forever. And I think that it has value in itself, being where it is and being as is. I feel like
Hold on. But imagine if you could trade that Pichu, where would it be?
if I could trade that Pichu, it would probably be in my Pokemon home box because I don't like to level up or do anything with Pokemon that are rare like that. Like I believe I
Okay,
have,
cool.
yeah,
So as we are, that Pichu is going to stay in that home box until something becomes compatible with it that makes it like you know able to even take out of the damn thing.
yeah, but that's okay. I'm not going to die because of it. Is my point. My point is that no matter where that Pichu is, it's not. I'm not gonna die because of it. Um,
True.
what
This
I
isn't life or death,
Yeah.
obviously, but it's
No, but
like
what I mean is like
there are.
I'm not so bothered by it, Like the one thing
Well,
I
yeah,
will say is that I would like if I could get it out of the game it's in because the game it's in, I'd like to be able to play it again without having to delete that guy. But I can't go backwards or forwards on that one. That's not necessarily the case for example, Generation 8. You can move your Pokemon out of that game to something else and do something else if you wanted to. And you could do the same thing for freaking what's the freaking game? Sun and Moon and all those other games. You can do that. You can move those Pokemon out of the way. Pichu is an extreme exception because its literal design only exists in that game. So therefore, that's why it can't be moved. It's a specific situation. However, I also do have something like you mentioned earlier, like that Charmander. I have a Metagross that I had from my first playthrough of Emerald ever, and that was my favorite Metagross. And I was able to just transfer that over and over and over and over again until I got it into. I don't even remember what game it is in now. I have so many games that's stuck in one of them. But the point is that I do have that, and I do have that Pokemon there, and it's been where it's at this whole time. It's not even good competitively. It's the Metagross, the first Metagross I had, and it's the one that I really loved, and I took with me everywhere. And it's just sitting in my box now, just chilling, because I'm not gonna use it competitively. I just have a connection to it, but that's okay. But I'm not upset that I couldn't play him or bring him over to Shield right away or at all for a time being. I was just like, that's okay. I wasn't gonna use him anyway. He's just, it is what it is. I want to play the new
the thing
Pokemon. The
is,
new ones that are here is what I want to try out.
yeah, the thing is, we are two opposite types of players, though.
Yeah.
You're like a super casual Pokemon player. I don't get into super duper hardcore like competitive Pokemon, but I am sort of a competitive battle. I like team building and like making sort of competitively viable teams. Like I'm not like I'm gonna go to nationals and win the championship, but like I do like the aspect of optimizing my teams and optimizing like the Pokemon that I play.
Well, I do that too, and I've actually won
The
tournaments here in Buffalo based on doing
and I
that. So I definitely can play competitive as well. But what I'm saying, it's not my
Like I can,
favorite. It's not
but
my
it's not within
favorite.
your interest.
Yeah,
So
it's not my
like your
favorite
perspective
thing.
is different.
Yeah.
So I didn't even get to like how not having national dice affects like the games like competitively because all of a sudden now the pool of available things that you have for like breeding and such like that is suddenly cut in half. And it's like obviously these aren't like super duper deal breakers on their own,
Yeah.
but if you do care about that stuff, that's a turnoff. Like, what the fuck? Like now suddenly my favorite Pokemon, which may or may not be in the game, suddenly may or may not have their moves anyway, or like most of the moves that will make them fun to play, or there's not really much experimentation that you can do because your pool of Pokemon that you can like mix and match and breed together for movesets and IVs and stuff just like doesn't exist anymore.
Well, that's not true because you got to remember they take some stuff out, but they also add some stuff in. Yeah, they took some stuff that you could use for breeding, but they also added a whole new generation of Pokemon that you could pick from and choose to do new experimentations with, and new breeding, and new attacks, and new abilities, as well as they add a significant amount of more attacks and abilities for breeding as well. So you
But
do get that.
it is ultimately less, and that's the issue. It's the thing. The thing is, like you say you were lenient with Sword and Shield. We have all been lenient with the entire Pokemon franchise going forward. The reason why this happened is because nobody had any sort of like real expectations for what each game was going to be because it's so formulaic, it's so standardized that it's like, oh, it's Pokemon. It's always going to be like the same shit, and that's the appeal. It's kind of the Mario brand of like,
Yeah.
oh, like we can expect a quality experience from this game. It doesn't have to change. It doesn't have to add any like obnoxious gimmicks to it. And even if it does, it's probably not going to be a big deal. It's Pokemon. It's going to be, what it is. And like, they could have gone above and beyond for like past games before. Like, they could have made a 3D Pokemon game since the DS.
They sure
But
could.
they didn't. But nobody cared. Nobody batted an eye when Black and White was still a sprite-based game.
Yeah.
Nobody batted an eye when like X and Y was like the first 3D Pokemon game ever, but you still had to move on a well, you didn't have to, but you could still move on a grid. Like nobody cared. Like nobody cared about any of that stuff, and like reasonably enough, is like because that's not those things are not why we play Pokemon.
Yeah.
We don't care about that stuff. The
What's
things
up,
we do
Mr.
care about though is just what's in it, and like there's at least a bare minimum that we do expect at the very least. But it's like so. I don't know.
Yeah, but the
It
bare
seems like
minimum
so bare
apparently
minimum.
seems to be the entire decks. That's from what I'm
Yeah,
hearing. It's the bare, but
yeah.
the thing is,
Not
there's so
not having
much that
every
they.
single Pokemon in one game, but just like having that available.
The thing is, we do have a majority, like I want to say above 80% at least, of all the Pokemon in the Sword and Shield games with the DLCs. Did it take a while for them to get them? Yeah, sure, but we do have them there now. It's that there's so many Pokemon, and I mean, I get it, but it's not like it's a card, you know? If you're doing like a card game, it's easy just to slap a picture on a piece of cardboard and reuse the same cardboard mechanic over and over again. In contrast to creating literal thousands of fucking, you know, different creatures that have to be in this world at all times, you know? Like it's a
They're already
huge.
made.
No, not all of them though. And you got to understand this is a new system. You can't just import the exact um, materials from that to this one. Now you
Oh,
can copy them. You can copy them, like for example, the
you don't.
schematics, the size, the design of it. You can copy it and make that into a different software, but it isn't the same codex that it was in the prior games. So it's not something that just you just pick up from the DS and move into a Switch. You can't do that. So it is still a lot of work to transfer all those to literally convert all those files over um, for them to be able to do that going forward. And in regards to
I
what
hope you're
they
looking at my screen.
say that again,
I hope you're looking at my screen.
I can see your screen.
Okay, good.
What about it?
No, just keep going.
Oh, yeah. I could see. And like I said, it doesn't change the. I'm not saying that they couldn't use the same schema. It's like a drawing. You can literally have a drawing, but what I'm saying is like you can't draw a piece of paper and then slap that piece of paper in the computer. You know, what you can do is you can go in the computer and just digitally copy the exact same details that the drawing has. So now it looks exactly like the piece of paper does. So you could say, oh, it's the same thing because it looks exactly like it, but it's a digital version. That's the same concept for this. You're changing one type of file into another one because it's a different software altogether. You're looking at a completely different software. So Switch is definitely a lot more complex. So for them to do that for 900 plus Pokemon, that's a lot. That's a shit ton. So I mean, it's not impossible. They could do it, and they did it for the most part. Um, it's just it takes time, especially for the first like official core game for the Switch. It takes time, and that's why I'm saying it's been some time now. So I'm hoping that they do that for this new game. Whether they all have the new sprites and new materials and fantastic looking skins like Survivor, I don't know. I'm hoping they do, but I just know that they should have them all in here, whether they come via DLC or not. I'm hoping that they all are going to be in here at some point in time, or at least the majority of them. Because I do appreciate the national decks, but it isn't for the reasons listed above, such as, it just changes my gameplay aspect. It's just because I like the idea of them being there. But I don't need them for the shiny charm because I can get a shiny charm right now, and regardless of whatever game I play, I can get a shiny charm. So that's not going to be what affects that. It's not for shiny hunting. That's not going to affect that. It's literally just going to be the appeal of having the option of picking more Pokemon, and that's literally it for me. I don't care about anything else competitive wise. As a matter of fact, X and Y did more for the competitive scene than any other Pokemon game ever, because back in the day, even if you had the national dex, only 10 Pokemon out of that entire dex was viable competitively, which was terrible. But what they did in X and Y is that they made it so that even some of the more crappy Pokemon that you would never see competitively had viability. They had purpose, they had availability to be used competitively. And honestly, that works better for people because if you like Dunsparce, and you never use Dunsparce competitively because it's just trash, and now suddenly Dunsparce is fucking a beast in X and Y or fucking Sword and Shield because it's literally got nothing to counter it, and it has a lot better stats and playability and viability in terms of competitiveness, then shit, now your favorite Pokemon is actually fucking useful. And that is something that's never been done in any Pokemon game prior to. So for the competitive scene, if anything, everyone should be a lot happier because now Pokemon actually have viability that never did before, and it's not your standard Garchomp and fucking Salamence every fucking game. So that's just on that aspect. But like I said, personally for me, I just like the idea of being able to um, just play the story and play the new Pokemon. I love the new Pokemon designs. I love adding them to my team, and I like playing with them. Competitive, maybe. It depends if that just happens to be the scene that I like. But if not, I won't die. But just going through the story with the new Pokemon, that's what I like.
I'm confused to how we got to X and Y because, like,
I didn't mean to say X and Y. I meant to say Shield, Sword and Shield.
Okay, so yeah, so you lost me because you were saying that the Pokemon being absent gave way to
a more competitive scene.
Viable.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the opposite of what that does, because the Pokemon being available makes them less viable than them being trash. So, like,
I understand what you're saying, but what I'm saying is that even if they were all there, you weren't going to use them. Even if they were all there, you weren't going to use them. There was no reason why you would ever use the Dunsparce in a match, ever, no matter what.
I mean, I wouldn't.
Anyone, no one would. No one would because it's not because competitively it's just not viable.
I can actually literally point you to somebody whose favorite Pokemon is Dunsparce, and he is in my chat. I'm surprised he's not cursing me out right now.
Well, because he might agree with me. Because the point is that in terms of competitiveness, XY does a lot more for Pokemon that don't normally get the limelight. The X and Y makes it so that Pokemon that don't get any love shine a little bit more at the
I was
cost
gonna
of
say
some
it's a lot.
Pokemon not being there, but still the ones that are there do get some love.
I gotta make sure you mean Sword and Shield because you keep saying X and Y.
I know, I do mean Sword and Shield. I don't know why I keep saying X and
Okay.
Y. Really quickly, I want to read this comment from Crimson. He says, I feel like the fan base is definitely obsessed with the concept of the national dex. I also feel that with each new game comes new features at the loss of old ones. Everything is subject to change. Not everything will stay the same, and there will be those that disagree with it. But in saying that, you have to understand that throughout time, every game has done this, despite the request of the fan base. And to be a fan of a series such as this one is nice. It's fun. We can't allow a lack of certain features ruin the game for all of us together. There is going to be ups and downs with this franchise, and I personally will just continue to watch and play. Kind of like the Snorlax. His design changed over the years since the beginning, from the sleeping position up to him being fully awake, standing up vertical, and ready to kick some ass. So yeah, that's a literal sense of change, but it's also metaphorical in the concept of, nothing is ever the same. There will be some things that get added, some things that get taken away and altered. So it's not like if they are going to add some things and take some things away, it's not going to make or break the game for me, because that's what you expect from a game in period. And not just in game, but in general, like in music, a singer is never going to make the same album twice. You're never going to see like for example, 3 Days Grace. They had one fantastic album, and then they had an album that went fucking left field, and you're just like, what the hell? But it ended up sounding good for them, and that's because they just don't do that. They don't stick with the same formula, whether it's good or bad. But it makes their work unique and have a lot of variety. So you could just pick the one that you like the best. If you fucking love Soul Silver and Heart Gold, baby, that's what you're going to play for the rest of your life. And that's fine, because that's a fantastic game to have. It's one of the top games in Pokemon series, in my opinion. But point is that they're not going to be able to satisfy everyone, but they can at least make something that can satisfy a niche group individually. So I feel like that targets
See,
everyone.
there's a difference between trying to satisfy everyone and not trying to piss people off.
People are going to get pissed off regardless. This generation gets mad for everything.
I mean, out to piss people off. Because there's a major difference between losing something like Mega Evolution and losing something like breeding.
Well, breeding hasn't been lost, first of all. Breeding has not been lost, first of all. And second of all, when Mega Evolutions went away, oh my god, that was another fucking debacle that happened.
You can't breed in Legends Arceus, though.
Yeah, but Legends of Arceus isn't necessarily a core game. It's
well, it is.
But it's not.
We went through the list because
it's not necessarily. I mean, I don't care what they call it. It's not a core game. It is not. You don't collect badges. You don't fucking challenge the Elite Four. It isn't in the current timeline. It doesn't affect anything else that you do anywhere else. It's a core game in the fact that they fucking called it that. If you want, I would never consider that a core game. If you do, that's you.
So would you say you
No.
would expect breeding to be in Gen 9?
Yes, I 100%. I 100% expect breeding to be in Gen 9, because Gen 9 is absolutely going to be a core game. It's in modern day time. It has fucking a set of new starters. It's going to have the gyms. It's going to have the Elite Four. It's going to have literally what a standard Pokemon game, core game, has done every time going forward. If it does not, then we have a problem. That's when I'm going to lose my shit.
Hold on to that mindset real quick. Yeah. Hold on to that. So, the one thing that Pokemon has not been for the longest time is varied. Pokemon, very, 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 very formulaic series. And a lot of the success is rooted in how consistent it's been with delivering a certain level of quality in terms of like the gameplay experience. And that's all we're asking for. Like, just that bare minimum. I know that for like games in general, you can't you can't always one up yourself. You can't always improve on the last one forever and then expect like each and every game is gonna be better than the last one or whatever. But like we never had that expectation when it came to Pokemon until Sword and Shield. It was always just, we just want the game to just function like it's always has at the very least. And whatever other features that come, because we knew that Mega Evolution was never going to be like a thing that was going to stay forever. We all knew Z moves weren't going to be a thing that stayed around forever. Getting Gigantamax, I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't in Scarlet and Violet. We never saw it, something like it again. But like, I'm talking about literally the core functions of the game itself. The only one that didn't have that, actually, that's not even true. The only games that don't have that is Sword and Shield. If we're talking about like the mainline games,
that's not true.
It's a feature that has always existed.
That's not true.
Gen 1 onward.
Sun and Moon, that doesn't have gyms. That doesn't have gyms. That doesn't have Elite Four. That's literally fucking the 4 fucking places you get to battle. You don't even get a fucking badge.
I'm talking about national decks though.
No, you're talking about consistency in core mechanics of a game. One of them, which is national decks, but another one is in gyms and in the Elite Four. That's not something that game did at all.
Everyone hates the fact that you have to do the totem battles in Sun and Moon, and it took until Gen 7 for them to actually try something different.
But that's the thing. I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it at all. It's a change to the core mechanic, but I didn't hate it. It was still something that was remotely viable. Now, it wasn't my favorite. I wasn't necessarily like, oh, great, no gyms. But I wasn't like distraught about it either. Same way about the national decks. I wasn't distraught about it. I would have preferred it for them to have it, but I wasn't distraught about it.
It was a point of contention for a lot of people when it comes to Sun and Moon. I wasn't bothered by it either, honestly. Like, I don't care. I'm not really here for the campaign of Pokemon games, like I said before. But it's just that, you know, something like that. Because, alright, the totems, honestly, I think its problem wasn't the fact that it wasn't gym battles, but it was more like the way it was structured. Because ultimately, you're still just battling Pokemon. Like, it's the same shit. It's just in a different package. The different package is weird. But, like, we've lost mechanics and features before.
Yeah, that's normal.
And they've come back in some ways. Gen 3, I believe, didn't have a day-night cycle initially. Like, they just got rid of it.
Yeah.
Or either Fire Red Leaf Green, I think, got rid of the day-night cycle.
Yeah.
It just didn't happen. Each Pokemon game comes with, like, some Poke Gear alternative.
Yeah.
Like, they give you a device where you give it to, like, different Pokemon, and it just never comes back.
Yeah.
Gen 5 had Dream World and all the different variations of that. Yeah, each game comes with new stuff, but there's always, like a core, like, number of things that it always has. And it's always been, like, massive backlash, or at least minimal backlash, if any of those things have been changed. The gyms, national decks, which hasn't become a problem until now, but in some cases, like, even with Mega Evolution, when Auras came out, they introduced new Mega Evolutions in Auras that were exclusive to, like, the Gen 3 Pokemon that weren't in X and Y. But I don't remember what it was. It was just that you couldn't transfer the Mega Stones from X and Y into Auras. So, like, your Mega Pokemon that you have in X and Y, and let's say if you were a competitive battler and you wanted to, like go into the next game, you couldn't, if you only owned X and Y, you literally couldn't, like, participate in official competitive Pokemon battles if you were still playing X and Y. You had to buy Auras. And, like, it may not sound like a big deal, but it is kind of fucked up, because that was never a problem before. And there was no reason for it to be a problem in the first place.
But that's the cost of creating new mechanics and having to adjust to a new game, because they're not going to use the same thing.
Mechanic. It's Mega Evolution.
But it's a new mechanic that they introduced that was not originally in the series. That's what I'm saying. and they're going to always try to introduce new mechanics going forward. Yeah, like for example, now we have Dynamax. Gen 9 is probably going to have something else called Star fucking something.
Yeah, that's
and
2 different generations though. I'm talking about in Gen 6, within the same generation, within the one mechanic that they had, that those two sets of games shared, they created this separation for no reason, so that people will buy like the Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire if they wanted to, like, let's say if you're a competitive Valor and you want to play like
Mega Garchomp.
Yeah.
Or not Garchomp.
Because for me,
Swampert.
I don't care about Gen 3. Like, I'm not a Gen 3 fan. I'm just not. Okay. So I didn't have any, like, I didn't have any reason to want to buy Auras at all. But because of that, I was essentially punished, and I just wasn't able to, like, participate in, like, current, like, competitive Pokemon stuff just because I didn't want to buy the new game.
Well, if your main thing was that you wanted to use one of the 3 starters Mega Evolutions, then I guess that makes sense. But if you don't care for any of them, then I don't see how.
No. Because remember, my favorite Pokemon is Absol, right?
Okay.
Absol has the Mega Form in X and Y.
Okay.
You can't transfer that Absol to Auras and use its Mega Form.
Okay.
The Mega Stone for Absol does not exist in Auras.
Okay.
Why?
I don't know.
Exactly.
Listen, I'm not concerned about that because again, that's a mechanic that I really couldn't care less about. And okay, let's say the competitive scene is concerned about that, right? Okay, I understand how that can become a problem, but that just goes to show that the Pokemon franchise series is going to do something, and then it's going to backtrack a little bit because of one reason or another, and then try something else. It's not the first time it's been done. It's not going to be the last time. There might be a mechanic that right now you're not even thinking about because it's just something we have so commonly in play. And then Gen 9 might just be like, fuck that mechanic because we don't have room or time for it. And then you're going to be like, what the fuck? They've ruined Pokemon again. And, it's just going to always happen. It's going to be Mega Evolutions. It's going to be National Dex. It's going to be whatever the fuck it is. As the Pokemon game continues to grow, and the Pokemon mechanics continue to expand, there are going to be mechanics that will be added and mechanics that will be taken away. And that's just something that I've come to terms with. And of course, I'm going to miss some of those old mechanics, but if I really like them, I just go back and play the old game that has them. Because that's, what they're there for.
The thing is, though, the National Dex is not a mechanic. It's not what it is. I think equating it to a mechanic is...
But the thing is, it is because it wasn't in the original games anyway. Like, it wasn't like...
There was only one region.
Yeah.
There was only Kanto. And then when Gen 2 came out, Gold Silver, National Dex was introduced.
Well, it wasn't necessarily National Dex. It's just the game literally had 2 regions in it. If it was just Johto, it might have been a little different.
It wasn't called the National Dex. Yes, I know. But I'm talking about the functionality of having a Dex with all of the Pokemon potentially in it, assuming that you collected them. Which back then didn't really indicate that, like, oh well, if like the Pokemon is, if the National Dex is here, that must mean that every Pokemon can be in this game. I'm pretty sure, I don't remember what, but I'm pretty sure there are some Pokemon games where filling the National Dex, I think at this point in time at least, is impossible. Like, literally, like, not possible because some Pokemon include, like, event Pokemon that you just can't get in.
Yeah.
But that's not what I'm talking about.
But the thing is that back in the day, for the Pokemon games, you didn't have Pokemon in the wild. You had codes that would sporadically show up across the grass that you came across, and it sprouted that one code of Pokemon to show up, and that was it. Now, you have literal pieces of figures in this open world at all times that you have to come across. And it's not just the Pokemon that are overworld, it's the world itself that's overworld, and yourself. Like, the game is becoming too big. That is the real problem. The amount of Pokemon we have is too much. If the amount of Pokemon we had was still 151, we would not be having this conversation because those Pokemon would be looking amazing. First of all, they practically look like fucking real fucking Pokemon, and then the games themselves would be looking fantastic. And because it's only 151, you don't have to cram so many Pokemon into a location. You could just leave it as is. But the fact that they have to somehow fit about 1,000 Pokemon into a map at all times.
The thing. I'm not talking about putting the Pokemon in the game. That's not what I'm asking for. I'm just asking for the availability of the Pokemon that aren't in the game to be transferred in from outside like we've always had.
I see. So you're saying for them not to necessarily be findable in the wild, but for you to be able to move them into the game for that purpose.
Yes.
Well, the thing
all
is...
all I'm asking is all of the Pokemon that are able to be captured and caught in Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon to be transferable into Scarlet and Violet. That is ultimately what I'm asking.
Sure. But you got to also remember, if they can't fit enough Pokemon into an overworld because of how much space it takes and how much it makes the game lag and just makes it unplayable because it's just way too many fucking things, so therefore they can't add those codexes for them, then it's almost pointless to add them in the game at all for just the ability of transferring them over for the play. Now, of course, you want to be able to do that eventually, but what I'm trying to say is that wouldn't be my primary focus when creating a game. I would, do everything that will be in the actual game first and then bring those over, kind of like the DLCs that they did. Where, yeah, you could find a lot of those wild Pokemon in the wild, but not all of them. And then you could do a lot of the transferring in from, like Pokemon Home and stuff like that. So something like along those lines, I feel like that would make sense. So for that purposes, I know what you're saying and I agree. But at the same time, they did do that. It just happened to be with the DLC. It wasn't with all of them, but they did do that with a big portion of them. It took time for them to do that. Say that. You want all of them?
Reason they can't do it. Yes.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
It is a lot.
That's a fucking lot.
They're not going to be in the overworld. They're just going to be the same collected data that they've always been.
But the thing is, think about it. If they decide to go the route of Legends Arceus, which is what it looks like they're doing, it will be overworld because you're not going to go into a specific screen where sprites just slide in and then they battle. You're literally going to have to throw those sprites out.
1,100 plus Pokemon.
That's what's going to happen. If you want them all to be in Gen 9, they all have to have a viable sprite with all the new context and colorings and fucking materials that will be in the wild that you can run around in circles and throw balls and all that shit because that's how the mechanics for Legends Arceus works. So you're essentially asking them to create overworld Pokemon for all 1,000 some change Pokemon because it is the only way for you to be able to battle with them now going forward in the new ways that they're making it happen.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's what I'm saying. Well, that's a lot.
Because here's the thing. Because you're still talking as if I'm asking for like the Pokemon to be catchable in the game, in the overworld. Like you can find every single Pokemon in existence in the wild. You go in the wild, you can find a Deoxys and throw a ball. Like, no, I'm not asking for that.
But the thing is, if you can battle with it, then you necessarily are doing that. Because the only difference is one you see in the field and one you throw to the field. If you throw it to the field, it's still in the field. Once it's in the field, it's in the field. So it doesn't matter if it's in the wild, because the mechanic is if you making something appear. If it's in the field, it is the same thing as if it being in the wild. The only difference is that you threw it there instead of the computer throwing it there. Therefore, it's still in the game like if it was a wild Pokemon.
But the difference between you having that Pokemon and that Pokemon being in the wild is that the Pokemon isn't programmed to be roaming around in the overworld. Which that sounds like you would, because that's cramming the Pokemon in.
Yeah.
If I have the Pokemon, I have a PC, I have infinite storage I can have one Pokemon and have like 999 copies of that same Pokemon in a PC somewhere, and that's not going to cram the game.
That's true.
I'm not asking for the Pokemon to be in the overworld. I'm talking about in the same way that every single item is programmed in the Pokemon game, whether or not you use it. You know that in Sword and Shield, even like the game's past Gen 5, the gene splicer is still programmed into the game.
Yeah.
Even though you can't even use it.
Yeah.
Yeah, do that for the Pokemon.
But first of all, there isn't an actual sprite. There isn't an actual sprite for the actual splicers.
If you hack the game,
no, but I mean, like, it's not something that you're gonna literally see in the overworld running around doing something. You know, when you throw a Pokemon, into the battlefield, now it is an actual. Even if it was just a code before that you could stack 1 million of, once you throw that into the field, now you have a shit ton of fucking whatever that codex is on the field as well with everything else.
Yes, there's a 3D model, and there is data and information of every single Pokemon in existence that already exists put in the game. That's all, man. You already have it, but the information that they need to do what I asked is already there. Just put it in the game. That's all I'm asking. I'm not even asking them to make new shit. Take what you already have and put it in. Do not omit anything regarding the Pokemon. That's all I'm asking.
I don't know, man. I feel like people are still gonna complain if they do that. I really do. They're gonna be like, I don't.
People who without the National Dex is gonna complain because all you're doing is meeting the one standard that you created for yourselves by keeping this thing going.
I don't know. I feel like people are still gonna be like, well, why are their sprites still the same? Why don't they look different? Why don't they have updated textures like every other Pokemon?
Now they will, because Sword and Shield, they are the ones who went out of their way to say some shit like, oh yeah, we're working on animations. And even if they didn't mean it was for Sword and Shield, they sure as fuck didn't clarify that point. Yeah. So now the expectation that we didn't have before, that we never had before, was created because they open their fucking mouths.
That's what I was talking about for Gen 9.
Now we're expecting more.
Yeah, but I was talking about that for Gen 9. But even though I'm expecting them to do that for Gen 9, I'm still not expecting them to do it for the entire Dex. I'm hoping that they do. Ideally, I would really prefer for them to do that. I'm saying that I didn't expect it for Gen 8 because I knew Gen 8 just wasn't going to be a feasible thing. And even then, they did a lot for it. What I'm saying is that I do want that for Gen 9. However, I understand that it's a fucking lot. And that's where the conversation slightly takes a turn because what we're talking about now is what we expect off of Generation 9, not what we got out of Generation 8. And in Generation 8, again, everything is going off of the fact that, for me, this was a game that it wasn't its core standard, like, new Pokemon game that was going to come out for the new system, and so I didn't expect too much for it, and they did a lot. Now, whether they got the full Dex in or not, I'm not going to be too upset about it because I understand it was the first one. However, like I said earlier, for Generation 9, I am expecting them to do significantly more. All I'm saying is that I know that it's a lot. It's a lot for them to do. However, they were very ambitious with what they did with Arceus. I understand people are fucking head over heels with the game Arceus. It's a nice game, but I just don't like... I already feel like Pokemon is doing too much. I already feel like Pokemon is doing too much in terms of trying to cram as much as they can into a game, which is causing them to miss out on things like the National Dex. But to make it overworld the way it is in Arceus, I'm not 100% sure it's going to make the gameplay mechanic easier or better. I hope so. I'm not the game creator, studying for it or not, but it just doesn't seem to make sense. But I'm not the game creator, so I can't say. All I know is that from what it sounds like, it is a lot that they're trying to do here. It is a lot that they're trying to add. To add 1,000 Pokemon and to add all their sprites and to add all of them to be able to be running around on the field, that seems like a daunting task. If they do it, perfect. I'd love that. I just don't. I would be surprised if it happens, is what I'm saying, I guess. I would be surprised if it happens. I don't see it actually happening, but I would be surprised if it happens.
It's a tough spot for Game Freak, I understand. Because in one degree, because this is all Sword and Shield stuff, honestly. In one degree, if the national... Okay, all right, imagine an alternate timeline where the National Dex was in Sword and Shield and nobody said anything about it. where we would be right now, Legends Arceus would probably still exist. Then they would announce Gen 9, and we probably still wouldn't care about like the Pokemon having like new fancy animations or new like 3D models and shit like that. And then making Gen 9 would be as simple as just take the foundation they created in Legends Arceus and then just take all of the old Pokemon, all the 3D models, and all the information of the Pokemon they already have, and just throw them in the game and everybody. It'll be that simple. But we are not in that timeline, unfortunately. So now they have to go above and beyond in order to win people back who were turned off by Sword and Shield. And honestly, I'm not saying that it's like an absolute necessity that they need to innovate Pokemon in a way, in such an extreme way, where like all of a sudden, like we got Pokemon roaming in the overworld. Like, yeah, that is something that we've always wanted, but like we've always went without.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Nobody cared before.
Exactly.
But unfortunately, here we are. It's like we're here, so they got to do it now. Like they got it.
But that's the thing, like, for you, where your biggest concern is the national dex, for me, the biggest concern is gameplay. I'm not a fan of the way the game plays in Arceus for a core game. Like, I like all kinds of Pokemon games. You fucking throw a Pokemon game at me, I'll fucking eat the shit out of it because I'm all about Pokemon. But I know how to differentiate what's a core game and what isn't in terms of the gameplay. And that's what I mean when I say that it's not a standard core game for me. It's not that it's not a core game. I'm referring to the gameplay. What a standard Pokemon core game gameplay is for me is totally different. And that's why I don't like the idea of the new game having the same mechanic gameplay as Arceus. It's not that it's bad. I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm just saying it doesn't give me the same feeling or sense of game experience that I had playing the original Pokemon games, really up to that point. So for that reason, I'm a little nervous how it's gonna go, how it's gonna come out. I really couldn't care less how the Dex comes out. I really couldn't care less, even honestly, Jim, I don't care. I just want to feel the same way I felt when I played the old Pokemon games, and I did not get that sensation from playing Arceus. It was a fun experience. It is an absolute great experience. I really do like it. It's just it doesn't feel the same. It almost makes me feel like I'm playing something else now, and and I'm not saying that's bad. It's just it's not Pokemon to me, you know. And that's the one problem I'm having. Because for me, as I said, the things that matter to me the most in a Pokemon game is the gameplay aspect because it provides a specific feel, as well as the Pokemon themselves in terms of like new ones, new art, new mechanics, new, or not mechanics necessarily, but just when they introduce like a cool looking Pokemon. I don't care if it's trash. I just like it. It looks cool. I want it in my team. That's it. That's all there is to it. So and then having that plus a solid mechanic that I recognize to be a core mechanic for Pokemon, that's what's going to make it and create the Pokemon experience for me. I'm not going to get that if I'm doing something totally fucking different. And now I can kind of get by the experience in Arceus if you put it in the current timeline with like Generation 9, but they need to do a lot to make that game feel like a standard core Pokemon game for me. Like they need to make it so that battling feels organic. Battling feels natural. Battling feels like it matters, that I'm not just walking up behind a Pokemon and throwing a ball at it. It's not that it's a bad mechanic. It's just it's not a core Pokemon game mechanic to me. You know, and I want to feel like I see a Pokemon, it's in the wild, and I have to throw a Pokemon, and it starts battling it, and then I fucking beat it, and then I catch it, and then boom, it's mine. Um, but I want to feel like every Pokemon in my team matters. I want to feel like if I have, like, first of all, they need to scrap the fucking experience share concept. Fuck that. Absolutely hate it.
Yeah.
Absolutely hate it. Absolutely hate it. Because I'm literally going to just level up all of my Pokemon just running around, catching shit, doing random stuff. And like getting experience for your Pokemon from completing missions, absolutely hate it. Don't want that at all. Because now my Pokemon are leveling up for absolutely nothing, which means that I'm not going to look at my Pokemon, because why? You know, I don't want that.
Or,
I don't want to feel
or
like the Pokemon that I have in my party are just sitting there while I'm just playing the game. It doesn't make sense to me. It's not a Pokemon game. It's a story about a kid game instead of a Pokemon game at that point.
or at the very least, I think if they must have the experience or anything, it should be something that you get post game.
Or
Because
that you can, toggle on and off. Allow me to toggle it off, and I'll be okay with it. Allow me
right,
to make it so that I can choose whether or not I get any experience at all from anything that I do in this game that is or isn't battling specifically with that Pokemon. I want to make it so that I have to go to my party and I have to say, this guy is difficult. I'm underleveled. Let me go to the wild and level up a little bit. My specific Pokemon that I'm very proud that I found, because on the entire fucking map, it was the one that showed up and he fucking disappeared. And I found it again and I caught it. And now I have this rare fucker that no one else has. Maybe not no one, but it's a very hard Pokemon to get. And now I'm working very, very hard to level it up. You know why? Because that's going to build a bond between me and that Pokemon. It's going to make me feel attached to it. It's going to make me care about it and the fact that I'm using it, and I'm going to be like, I like this. This is a fun experience because I'm connecting with something new, and I like that. But if I'm going to find this rare fucking Pokemon that's really hard to find, and I'm going to throw it at the bottom of my slot because everything else I have is level 60, and that's level 5, and then I'm going to do a couple of quick things. Next thing you know, it's level 55 as well, and I'm never going to use it. It's just literally going to sit at the bottom of my box, and I'm never going to use it. And I don't want that. I don't want that experience. I feel like it's robbing me from my Pokemon experience, and I feel like the experience in Arceus has changed from a battling experience to a roaming and catching experience. And I
yeah,
don't like that. I'm not saying it's
that
bad. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's not what I feel is a core mechanic experience for Pokemon.
yeah, that is a core problem with Legends Arceus because as little as I've played very little of Legends Arceus, and part of it has to do with the fact that yes, it's a Pokemon game, but no, it's not a Pokemon game
Exactly.
because the focus isn't like go on an adventure, build your team, and go beat the shit out of whatever trainers to prove that you're the greatest. And
Exactly.
it's blindly throwing Pokeballs at whatever the fuck is around and filling these checklists of
Exactly.
objectives that have nothing to do with anything. And it's like, well, yeah, that's boring. I'm sorry. Like,
Complete overworld tasks. And I'm not saying that it's like I said, I'm not even saying it's bad, boring, or anything. It's great, as a
no, I'm
mechanic
saying
for a
it's boring.
video game, as a
I'm not being
mechanic for
nice.
as a mechanic for a video game, I think it's great. I'm just saying it's not a core Pokemon mechanic experience. So I don't want to, for my core Pokemon mechanic experience, to be me doing missions and getting experience from that, because I have
Yeah.
Elden Ring for that. I don't want that for Pokemon. I want Pokemon
With
to be about me throwing my Pokemon out and making it mean something. That's what I want.
with that being said, though, it may not seem like it's you because we've had this conversation already, but I feel like taking the foundation of Legends Arceus as like the overworld and how it functions, and combining that with previous Pokemon games from before and how experience gain in raising Pokemon and things like breeding and movesets, and just combining those two aspects is a super easy thing that they could just do for Gen 9.
I would really hope
Because
so. I would really
the
hope
the
so.
main problem that you and I are both having with Legends Arceus is that the gameplay loop is not why we play Pokemon.
Exactly.
We don't play Pokemon just to go randomly catch Pokemon. That's what we play Pokemon Go for.
Exactly.
That's what we
Literally,
go
that's what
outside
Go for
to
is.
to just throw Pokeballs at everything. You don't give a fuck about any of your Pokemon.
I don't. They're just they're
So
cool,
yeah. So like honestly,
And
I
even
don't think
even Pokemon Go gives me more of a sense of actually doing something with Pokemon than fucking Arceus does, because at least it is revolved around the Pokemon, where Arceus just feels like it's revolved around exploring. And I'm not saying exploring is bad, it's just I feel like the way it's done takes away from the feel of focusing on the Pokemon.
yeah. I'm just saying that like I don't think Gen 9 will have that problem.
I hope so. That is my biggest. That
Because
is my number one concern. While everyone else is panicking about a national dex, what the new battle mechanic is going to be, Gigantamax, whatever, or fucking breeding, or whatever the fuck it is, what the starters are going to look like in their final evolutions, what generation, or how many new Pokemon they're going to have, or any of that. I don't give a flying fuck about any of that because I'm always going to just be just fine regardless playing the game because I overall I enjoy the concept of the game if it just sticks to a specific feel in the gameplay for what a core mechanic Pokemon gameplay is. If it could do that for me, I feel like we're gonna get along just fine. But if you fuck that up, then that's when I'm gonna be at a loss because at that point, I would even say Temtem is doing it better, and that's
right,
saying a lot.
and, well, okay, I guess like of course you have your reasons to be concerned, and they're all valid. I guess the reason why I'm not concerned is that in my brain the way I frame it is that Gen 9 is essentially just the whole concept of Legends Arceus and then what Gen 9 is going to be is just imagine a normal Pokemon game except the dynamic of Pokemon being in the grass and you being in the grass is just flipped.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the only thing that's different. And it's like, okay, cool.
Hopefully, ideally, right? I don't know. It's just I'm a little skeptical because I don't know. I feel like they are trying to tailor what we want because technically that's what we've been asking for forever. But at the same time, I'm not sure that it's a good idea anymore. I feel like it's taking away from that feel, that original feel. Um,
Oh, I
and
just thought of something.
what's up?
So, what you're feeling about Legends Arceus is how I felt about 358 over 2 days.
Yeah.
Because, like, ultimately, that game is just Kingdom Hearts 2 again.
Yeah.
But, like, gameplay wise, it's the same shit. But the way that you go through the game
Yeah.
changes how you feel about playing.
Exactly.
It makes you not want to play the game again.
Exactly.
It's like, I love this game, I love the story, I love playing it, but I hate the process of playing through it.
I hate that it's integral to the story, and I hate that it might be how the rest of them come out afterwards. That's my thing. So yeah, that's my thing right now for Generation 9 is
Sorry.
I'm concerned about the yeah, I'm just concerned about how it's going to look going forward. I'm not too excited about that in terms of the gameplay mechanic. That's really my main concern because while everyone complains about one thing or another, this would be the one I complain about, you know? And then again, I'm not necessarily complaining about it just yet because it hasn't even come out yet. I don't know if that's the case, you know. I don't know if that's what's happening with that game. I haven't played it, so that I don't know if that's what's going to happen. I'm just saying that I would really hope that that's not the case because I feel like it's going to negatively impact my feel for the actual game going forward. So that's just my hope and expectations for the game is that they do the balance just right. That's what I'm hoping that comes out of this is that they do the balance just right. Aside from that, though, I'm not really too concerned about what else they do with the game. I'm sure that Pokemon has enough experience to do what they've been doing. They have a formula. People will play it. They either will or they won't. Doesn't matter to me. But I just hope that they make the right blend in terms of mixing some gameplay style like the Arceus game as well as the traditional Pokemon game style. That's my main concern.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. Ideally, in a perfect timeline, we wouldn't have to worry about this shit. But
Yeah.
because of like Gen 8 and everything that's kind of done to the franchise, we kind of got it. But like, I feel like Legends Arceus by itself does a lot of things right when it comes to just taking the concept of being in the world of Pokemon and almost doing what you would normally do in a Pokemon game, but the issue is not what you're doing, but why you're doing it.
Yeah.
And then because the objectives mean nothing to you.
Yeah.
Or to anybody. Like no one cares. No one cares about like going to battle and seeing a particular Pokemon do a move 25 times. It's like, no. Nobody wants to do that shit. I just want to do what I've always done in every other Pokemon game, and that's it. Even if you change it to be like this fancy, weird, like, oh, we're gonna make it like a overworld where the Pokemon are roaming around, you can throw the Pokeball and you catch it, whatever. It's like cool, but don't do anything else. don't do any other crazy bullshit. Just,
right now, I know I was speaking critical about Arceus, and again, I'm not trying to say it's a bad game or that I dislike it or anything. What I'm doing right now is saying that my worries is that they don't do the mechanic right. But I will say that I'm not necessarily too negatively focused on how that's going to turn out for the simple fact that Arceus just does not have a heavy battle mechanic into it. So it's not like they have a battle mechanic and it sucks and I don't like it. It's just that they don't have one, and if they do, it's very, very minuscule compared to what you're going to experience in
watered down from like traditional Pokemon.
Yeah, exactly. In the traditional Pokemon game, it's significantly different. So, like the people that you fight, it's like they've never battled before, and like they'll throw maybe one or two out, and then that's the one time you're just like, oh yeah, battling that exists, So like for that reason, I can't be too critical about the Arceus gameplay just yet because it's its own feel. I'm hoping that they find the right balance for Generation 9 where they can add experienced battlers throughout your journey that you come across. So instead of, bug catcher fucking Joe fucking standing there waiting for you to come across, you could literally just be walking and someone else is walking around the area. If you guys happen to cross each other, yeah. If you guys happen to cross each other, he goes like, "Hey, you!" runs up to you. I'm about to whoop your ass. Go Charizard, and then that'd be cool, because now I feel like like battling means something again, and I know I'm gonna battle a lot more people going forward, and then I got to go to a gym where I got to fight someone who's gonna whoop my ass unless I prep my team just right, and then I'm going to focus taking time on training my Pokemon to freaking be able to have one that has a typing that works as well as the required level, and as well as building that bond with that Pokemon. So there is a chance that this really could work out perfectly, like that the mechanic is just right because they actually implement people to battle with throughout the game. So that's my hope for it. And I feel like if they do that right, it's going to be one of the best experiences in Pokemon ever. It's just that it's a very nerve-wracking experience that I'm just imagining happening based on what I've experienced so far.
And you know what sucks? The thing that's so frustrating about that, right, is that yes, there is a timeline where all this turns out perfectly. And the problem is, even as someone who's not a game developer, just looking at everything on surface level, we have already experienced like everything that you could like in isolation. There are things that we usually always expect in Pokemon that if you just put them all together, you would just have an objective, perfect experience that everyone will love, and you can envision it. You can see it.
Yeah.
They just have to do it.
Yeah.
That's all.
So I got a question for you. What would you say? I feel like I already know the answer for you because I know it for me. But what would you prefer? A game for Gen 9 to be an innovative experience with lots of new features and lots of cool new things going forward, whether or not they add the standard stuff we have or not, or if you would like it to just have all the generically good things that Pokemon has right now complete and successfily into the game. Just a bit.
All the generic bullshit.
Yes. All the generic shit. I don't. You could leave everything else out. You could leave everything else out. I don't care about none of that. If you could leave everything else out and just have a generically good Pokemon game, Just give us the full decks. Just give us the Pokemon battle feel. Just give us the.
Absolutely that.
just give.
100%.
Yeah. just
No
give.
hesitation. And
Yeah.
here's why. Because I always bring it back to Sonic 100% of the time. I can't tell you. And well, I can't because I have already. But I will reiterate this again. How frustrating it is to see the Sonic franchise flop over and over and over again when they already had the perfect formula and just refuse to go back to it for no reason. Just refuse. They keep trying new shit. They keep trying putting all these stupid gimmicks in these games, and not once since Sonic Adventure 3 have they just attempted to make an honest to God pure 3D Sonic game to this day.
Yeah.
Not one time have they ever tried to do it. So it's extra frustrating when they keep trying new shit and then the game sucks. And it's like, this wouldn't be a problem if you could just like just do what you did the first time. Again, I mean, like, it doesn't even have to be better. It doesn't even have to be like, it just has to be like the good. I'm not even looking for better. I'm looking for equal. Like, at least equal. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah. No,
and then Sonic Mania kind of just proved that because literally all it is just, it's just Sonic 3 again, but like with some original levels. It's like, cool, awesome, this game is amazing. It's like the best Sonic game ever. Like,
yeah.
Yeah. And then Forces comes out, and then they have Classic Sonic, and all his mechanics are fucked up. It's like, how did you fuck this up? You literally hired like a bunch of random indie developers to make a Sonic game for you. They did it perfectly, and then official Sonic team comes out with Sonic game is trash?
Yeah, sounds about right.
How?
Sounds about right, man.
They already did it. Like literally everything that they need to make a perfect Pokemon game, they already have it. Just throw it all in. Just throw everything in. All of it.
Yep.
Except for the objective checklist. That's all they need to get rid of in Legends Arceus. Just get rid of the objective checklist and you're golden.
Yeah.
Just make it normal.
But then after that, as good as that was, I would expect the next game to then go back to doing some experimentation stuff, you know? I wouldn't necessarily say take anything out. I mean, if you have to, they're always going to do that regardless. But, like, I wouldn't mind if the next game does a little bit more experimentation. But I feel like because this is a new console, because this is... I don't know. It's not the first generation they're doing for this console, but I feel like this is a good opportunity for them to say, we have mastered the technology required to make this. And I want them to show me what that would be. If you can master it, if you can show me the best quality that you could do with what you got for just your standard generic thing on a Pokemon game, I feel like that's going to be the foundation for me. That's going to be like, this is what we got. This is what we could do standard. This is how much we've mastered and we're able to do. Now we're going to experiment. Now we're going to try little things here, little things there to try to make it better. I feel like that's kind of what they did with Arceus in terms of experimentation. But I want to see like a complete product per se. So, but then after that, I don't care as long as it's innovative and fun, you know. As long as it keeps a battle feel, the original feel that I was talking about for a battling system in the Pokemon games, that's my main concern. As long as it has that, then I'm okay.
Yeah, you're literally asking for the same thing. It's just
yeah,
normal.
Yeah, literally. So,
do you think the whole agile and strong style in Legend Arceus is either going to carry over?
No, I hope not. I think it's the stupidest mechanic. I understand that it has value and it could be good. I just don't like it. I don't think it's working. I don't like it. The difference would have to be a lot more calibrated. But I don't like it. I don't think it's a mechanic that I would prefer to keep.
All right, real talk. I have no idea what it does.
Well, so what it does is, so your regular attack is your regular attack. If you do an agile attack, the attack damage goes down a little bit, but the speed in which you get to attack goes up. So if you're fighting something that has a slower attack, for example, you might get two attacks instead of one. The other way is the strong style, where it'll do more damage than the standard attack. However, there's a chance that by by doing so, that it's slow enough that your opponent gets to land two hits on you. So it does have a trade-off. You want to hit harder, you want to hit faster. Just depends on what you're doing. And it, in theory, it's a solid mechanic because it's the closest thing that you get to um, battling and being able to strategize against an enemy, being able to land multiple hits instead of the one. In theory, it's a good, thing that you could do. I just don't think that it's refined well enough yet. If they're able to refine it well enough to make it more viable, then I think it could be a solid idea. It's just that right now I don't feel like it's refined well enough yet. That's just my personal opinion.
I mean, like, definitely not as it is in Legends Arceus.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the elements of battling are so different that, like, I don't even know why they bothered, because it wouldn't work the way Legends Arceus works already.
The thing is,
I can see like a weird RPS type thing.
Yeah.
Where, let's say, imagine they have national decks and they have like every Pokemon in the game. You could take something like a Dunsparce, and then maybe there could be a mechanic where instead of just strong and agile, they'll have like 4 different styles where you could have like, say, a defensive one, where like whatever attack you do for this turn, whatever damage you take is like cut in half. Like, so much so that if you're a Dunsparce and you're facing off against like fucking Garchomp and they Dragon Rush you, won't die. You'll take a good chunk of damage, but you'll at least get a turn or something like that.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of strategic value in that.
There definitely.
I think that's something that they would and should be aiming for, because I can sense why something like Dynamaxing and Gigantamaxing exists.
Yeah.
Because the thing that sucked about Mega Evolution is that Mega Evolution was exclusive to only a few Pokemon. And Dynamaxing, like, hey, you can take any Pokemon and just beef them up.
The thing is that
so I think
the thing about Dynamaxing is that it's the first time in a Pokemon game where defense was not absolute. You could still take damage from attacks even if you use things like Protect. And that was the first time that was experienced, and it was in the Dynamax world. And I feel like since then, Pokemon is trying to introduce a new style to the battle mechanic, or like implementing a new mechanic into the battle mechanic. It's not necessarily a bad thing or a bad idea. It is something extra to learn, though, and I don't know if everyone wants that. I'm not necessarily against it, but if you're going to do it, I would really prefer for it to be refined first, because it's going to be a whole new mechanic. It's essentially adding a new battle style to an already existing battle style. Like, yeah, you can attack, but for example, if you, let's say we go along with what you were talking about, adding a defense, right? If you go and you do agile style protect, hypothetically speaking, you could protect, but you will take significantly less damage for that turn. However, because you use the agile form of it, you're going to be able to counter strike a lot faster. In contrast, if you do like strong protect, then you ain't taking shit worth of damage. However, your enemy might be able to attack twice. You know what I'm saying? So so if you think about it that way, there definitely is some value into adding a new mechanic into the battle mechanic we currently already have for Pokemon. I think it does sound like it could be something that sounds fun, but at the same time, I would prefer for it to be refined first. If we had the option, I would prefer for it to be refined. Maybe that's why they put it in Arceus, to kind of test out how it is, how it works, what we think, and all that stuff. It's just that from what I've experienced, I don't feel like it's refined enough.
It definitely wouldn't work as is, even if everything, you couldn't transfer strong style and anti style into the previous generation.
Yeah.
as it works now. But I'm pretty sure that, or at least I'm confident that they're smart enough to evolve it in some way and not just leave it as is. Because I feel like they're trying to, like the fact that they tried to implement some kind of like extra battle mechanic on top of like what we already do in Legends Arceus at all suggests that like, well, for the next game they're gonna try to do something.
Yeah.
They really didn't have to. Like the game isn't even focused around battling, and they added a new battle mechanic. I was like, well, that's weird. They could only be trying to implement like some new nonsense.
Yeah. Okay. So we got that. Let's see what subjects we did not cover yet. Let's talk about favorite generation. What's your favorite generation?
Boy. All right. Actually, okay. All right. I can sort of cheese this question. So, if I were to answer that straight up, my favorite generation is Gen 5.
5?
5. 5 is pretty great.
Okay.
I have my gripes and I have my gripes with Black and White 2, which people who know me know what those are. But like, ultimately, Gen 5 as a full package is like, for me, easily like the best gen.
What is it about it that you like?
So, one thing that I like that Gen 5 did, and I wish they would go back to doing it, when in Gen 5, all of the Pokemon that you encounter within the region are all 100% new Pokemon that are being introduced in that generation.
Okay.
You do not encounter any old or previous gen Pokemon in that game until post game. And I love that because, well, okay, for me, I like it because usually when a new Pokemon game's coming out, I do my damnedest to not spoil myself on what the Pokemon are or what they look like or anything like that. Okay. I try to be as surprised as possible when I'm playing the game, and I just love that sense of discovery when you're playing the game. And everything you look at when you encounter a Pokemon is new and fascinating. It's like, oh my god, it's like a safari. It's great, especially when I think them doing that motivated them to make enough Pokemon to facilitate that, because they introduced a whole nother 150 Pokemon for Gen 5. And like, of course, that's enough to have like a whole region full of just nothing but new Pokemon.
Okay.
The region itself, I wouldn't say it has anything that like absolutely stands over like most other gens, except for like one or two things. Intralink was interesting. I feel like it wasn't great, but I appreciate the attempt of having some kind of like real-time multiplayer aspect in Pokemon, because we never had that before. You couldn't really do much in the Intralink, but it was something. And I think Dream World was like the greatest thing ever.
Really?
Like, fuck, man. It. I don't know what it is. It's so simple. Like, it's just like, oh, you log into this browser game, and then you could get like a new hidden ability Pokemon that you can find and transfer it to your game like every single day if you log in. And it gives you that same addiction that you get if you play a gacha. I don't know if you play gachas, but like,
yeah,
that it's kind of like the original, like,
yeah,
not the original gacha, but you know,
I know what you mean.
That's the gateway drug, you know.
Yeah.
Like, and it was just fun. It was fun, and like hidden abilities in general just being a new concept. It's like, oh god, but like Pokemon that have new abilities and shit, and you can like breed them to have new abilities and whatnot.
Yeah.
They were actually rare. Like, they weren't something that you could just find in the game very easily. You either have to like actually no, I think they were exclusive to Dream World, and then you had to breed Pokemon into to having hidden abilities. So yeah, it was like actual, like, wow, this Pokemon is special. Like, fuck it being shiny. Like this thing, like has Wall Breaker for some reason. Like the fuck. It gave. It's kind of like it's kind of what I'm asking for when it comes to like modern gen Pokemon, where it's like shinies are way too easy to get.
Yeah.
Especially in Legends Arceus. It's like we need a new like tier of shiny where it's like, because like shinies aren't special anymore. They haven't been special in a long time.
Yeah.
Hidden ability Pokemon was that, and it was nice because they were also useful. It wasn't just that like, oh, it's a different color. It's like, oh no, this Pokemon has an ability that it probably shouldn't have,
Yeah.
but it does. It's like, oh my god, it's cool. It's competitively viable. Holy shit. Let me talk to you about Join Avenue. Holy fuck. Join Avenue. You played Gen 5, right?
Gen 5, yeah.
Yeah, like Black and White 2?
Mm-hmm. I played them both. 4 of them, I should say.
So, Join Avenue was like the seed that ended up growing into, God, what was it called? You know, on the 3DS, where if you pass by somebody who has a 3DS themselves, you can like have their me join your thingamajig, and you have like all these minigames and shit. That began with Join Avenue in Black and White 2. And you have like your own like hallway where you just manage like all these shops and shit. And they had a bunch of stuff in it that like you had no business having access to in the first place. Like you could buy lucky eggs, you could buy rare candies, you could buy like a bunch of crap. Like you could have your Pokemon get massaged and have their friendships raised for practically free. You could Meat Plaza. I don't know if that was like the whole, but yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Like, fuck, what was it called? It was like the whole function of the 3DS, but Meat Plaza was part of it. That was like really cool. Like just, and you sort of realize, because the way it worked is that like you have this hallway and you have all these shops, right?
Yeah.
And you develop these shops just by having your Pokemon game on you, and whenever you pass by someone else who has a copy of Pokemon, their character will show up in your Join Avenue, and they'll start shopping in your plaza. And like the more customers you get, and the more and stuff like that, the more your shops built and whatnot.
Yeah, yeah.
And like it's something that you would think that, you know, eventually it would die out. Like you couldn't use it in modern day, obviously.
Yeah.
But at the time, you always had people coming in and out all the time, and it made you realize, like, holy shit, there's like at least you're passing by at least 20 to 30 people who are playing Pokemon just on your daily commute. And that was just cool. It just made you aware of like how many people are playing Pokemon, even outside of just your friend circle.
Yeah.
Like I would come from my house, go to the public library, because that's just what I did every day. Open up my Join Avenue, and I'd get like 20 people. It's like, holy crap! Like between just me coming from my house to the library, I passed by 20 people who were probably like also playing Pokemon.
Yeah.
Street Pass, there we go. That's what it was called. Fucking Street Pass in the 3DS. Probably like the greatest feature on that thing, and I'm super pissed that it's not on the Switch. They absolutely should have put that function on the Switch. Yeah.
Okay.
Also the Pokemon. Some of my favorite Pokemon come from Gen 5. Like Darmanitan, Zoroark, Sigilyph, even though I don't really like using it, I like its design. Shit. Stunfisk, unironically. Like,
unironically.
Blue Eyes White Dragon and Red Eyes Black Dragon. Q-Run in general, like just the three. I think those three legendaries embody the whole like energy concept better than like Ultra Zapdos Articuno does. Even though I joke about like, I don't know if you play Pokemon for the story,
Yeah.
I like that they tried. I do like the effort. I think it gets a bit cumbersome in Black and White 2, because Black and White 2 has this problem where, like, every half a route there's, like, a new cutscene and someone's stopping you from doing absolutely nothing. But, at least in Black and White 1, your journey is kind of, like, well motivated.
Mm.
Like, oh, it's not just you're playing another Pokemon game, or you're not just going to the Pokemon League again. It's like, no, this Team Plasma is a big fucking deal. And, N's a cool character. The whole concept of just, like, Getis and his manipulations and shit. Yeah.
Um. Okay. If I had to pick a favorite generation for me, it's going to be Generation 3. Um, to me, Generation 3 was just. So, what I was saying about what I would like Generation 9 to be, just like all the generic things put together in, in an up to date version, I feel like that's what Generation 3 was for me. It was a game that pretty much had everything that I wanted it to have. It had one of the biggest selection of new Pokemon to a game. It, of course, you have the option of having other Pokemon in it too, but just the dex itself was significantly bigger than most dexes out there now. The post game was insane. You just had so much to do post game. And then some of my favorite Pokemon designs were there. Literally, one of my favorite Pokemons ever, Metagross, is from that generation. And the story was fun. I enjoyed the story very, very much. But I feel like what makes the game my favorite is that I was able to really see the world fleshed out in terms of not just the game, but the movies. I feel like the movies did a really good job at painting this picture for me of what this world is like, what it's about, so that I feel invested in it. And then as I was playing through this game, I felt like I had context with it, and it just made the experience so much better for me. When I think that's one of the reasons that people truly enjoyed the first generation so much is because of the animation. The anime was really good back then, and so you can kind of connect to the Pokemon more because you had the context of the anime. I feel like that's what the movie did for Generation 3, and I just overall it was very fun. And the cool thing about it is that there were plenty of times where I had seen already Pokemon in the game through trailers and everything, and I thought I had seen it all, but I didn't. There were times where I was very surprised with new Pokemon that I would come across. Some that looked really cool, some that I thought I'd seen. There was actually a time where I didn't even realize that Carvana um, evolved into a Sharpedo. I didn't know that. I didn't know that at all. I thought they were two totally different Pokemon. And like, I remember I was playing with my Carvana one time, and it evolved, and I was like, "What the fuck? What is going on? Why is it evolving?" And then it evolved into a Sharpedo, and I was like, "Oh my god!" I was so surprised. I literally ran around the house like, "Did you know that this evolved into that? I didn't know that. I thought this was so," like it was like little things like that, or like the one time that like I was surfing and I came across a Phoebus, and I was just like, "The hell is this ugly ass Pokemon?" And I was like, "Well, if I came across it once, I'll come across it again later, so I don't need to catch it now." And I let it run. And then like I'm just playing through the game, and I'm like, "Man, that's a cool Pokemon, Milotic. I wonder what evolves. I wonder how I get a Milotic." I was like, "Oh, you got to catch a Phoebus and evolve." I was like, "Oh shit, I've seen the Phoebus. Let me go get the Phoebus." So then I go back to look for the Phoebus, and I'm just surfing for days, and I'm like, "Where the fuck is this Phoebus?" And then I look it up, and they're like, "Yeah, the odds of you coming across one, it's near impossible." And I was like, "Fuck!" I was just like, "Oh my god!" But that was part of the fun. It was just like little things like that was part of the fun for me. It just it was one of the few times where it's just like it was like a fully new experience with Pokemon, and it just felt fun the whole time. And the legendaries were like so fun to deal with. Um, I loved all the legendaries, and that was the other thing is that it really felt like obtaining the legendaries was incredibly fun because it wasn't just your standard um fucking what's his name Kyogre and Groudon, and freaking Rayquaza. You had your legendary trios, the Regices, that you had to like have specific Pokemon in your team in specific order, and you had to like go underwater with dive and read, and just like those little things were so freaking cool. And then also, probably my favorite thing was just like randomly surfing from one location to another and then a random freaking Latios just shows up in front of you, and you're just like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, that was the freaking coolest thing in the world to me. Um, and that was also the first time I learned that a Pokemon can run away, even if you hurt it, it'll still keep that damage. So like, I remember I hit the Latios and I ran away. I found it again later and it still had that same damage I had done to it before. And I was just like, oh man, that's so good to know. And I just kept doing that over and over again until I eventually caught it. So, because for some reason it was outspeeding my Golbat with Mean Look. So, um, but it was still, it was a very fun experience. Like, it was a different fun experience because I feel like the original Pokemon game, the Mewtwo wasn't all that fun to catch. He was just sitting in his cave, minding his own fucking business. That's it. Nothing special about it. um, Ho-Oh, that was a bit better, as well as the Trio Dogs. But I just feel like Emerald really did a good job in making it so that you can really enjoy catching legendaries in general. And just like the world just was very vibrant to me. So yeah, that's why I would say Generation 3 was my favorite. Um, yeah. The next one is, what's your favorite Pokemon? I mean, what is your favorite Pokemon?
I don't know. I never thought about this.
I don't even got to say mine just because he's literally on the screen right now, but
Well, man, if you twisted my arm and you had to make me pick my favorite Pokemon, shit. Hmm, I would have to say, Dedenne.
really?
No, it's absolutely. Would you ask
That's funny.
Absol.
Listen, it's for the crowd, right? um, and then finally, the last thing to go over here today is we've already talked about a lot of the stuff that we expect or want for the Pokemon game in terms of mechanics and stuff like that in the future for Generation 9. But what are some hopes that you want for Generation 9, the game, to have that isn't necessarily mechanic based, such as Pokemon styles, what evolutions you were hoping for, a type of Pokemon you'd like to see, an area you'd like to come across in the game, something like that? What are some things you kind of have in mind that you'd like to see?
All right. So I really like the idea of regional variants of past Pokemon. Because like I think one thing that's kind of just low key super disappointing is when a new generation comes out and like the new Pokemon, there's like maybe a medium. Like it's probably not a big deal, and it probably sounds like really greedy. It's like I want 150 or 200 new Pokemon every gen. It's like, well, I get that that's unrealistic, but like still, that is sort of disappointing.
Yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah.
think a nice compromise would be like, well, you could have like maybe like 60 something new Pokemon, but then old Pokemon would have like now there's Hoenn variations that didn't exist before. It's like, oh shit, like wow, like to just take some of the old Pokemon and give them their own like variants. I
All right.
think the regional variants was a genius idea. They should like really
Top
cash that
three,
in.
top three variations or evolutions you want for Pokemon.
Top three. Definitely a Hoenn variation for Absol. Um, I think. Oh god, I don't know what it would be or why, how it would be different, but like something. I'll probably come up with something later. Uh, I think they should start filling out like the type combinations that we just don't have.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like because we have a lot of we have a lot of type combinations that just aren't that just don't exist. It's weird.
Yeah.
Um, like literally, the regional variance is a good excuse to just fill that out. I don't know what specifically. Um, some of my favorite Pokemon already have regional variants now. Like Darmanitan has one, stuff has one, Zoroark has one already. Uh, fucking man, I don't know. I'm at a point where it's like a lot of Pokemon that I like has something already, so I'd only be wishing for like, oh, someone else's favorite Pokemon could get this. It'd be cool if it existed. Um, God, I had another thing and I lost it.
So far, you said a variant for Absol. Two more.
Oh, you want me to go specifics? Okay,
Yeah, just two, just a total of three specifics.
give the Gen 2 starters something. Actually, no, they gave Cyndaquil. That's good. Damn. They've already done so much. This is tough.
Yeah.
Starting to realize what a big ask this is because, like, Gen 4, we got a bunch of, like, evolutions for Pokemon that just didn't happen before.
Yeah.
Damn, this is tough.
All right, I'll give you one, or you give me one, I give you one. We'll do it that way. So you said the Absol. I'm gonna go backtrack to one we were talking about earlier, Dunsparce. I'd love to see Dunsparce get something, whether it's an evolution, whether it's a variant form, something that makes it just a little bit, anything, something to give him a little bit of some love. So I would go with Dunsparce. I've seen some stuff
Uh,
like dragon evolutions for it, like a fairy dragon. I think that works so well just by the look of it, or like a fug, like a bug dragon. I think it looked really cool. Yeah. So
I don't
that's
have anything else in terms of, like, things that I wanted to do to my favorite Pokemon, but, like, some Pokemon that are just trash for no reason, like, give them something. Like, fucking Sunflora. Like, like probably the worst fully evolved Pokemon in existence. Like it needs something.
I'd like to see something for Sudowoodo because I've seen that Sudowoodo a lot of the times gets kind of like a comparison to Mr. Mime, but Mr. Mime now has Mr. Rhyme and all that fun stuff. So I would like to see like a variant form for Sudowoodo as well, just to see if they have an evolution or a variant form. I'd be cool with either one of those.
I don't know if it's too new, but maybe like a Serena variant.
Oh, okay. I'd also like to see a new evolution. We've gone a couple of gens
I
now
mean,
for like that.
everybody would love to see
Yeah, but it's like at this point, I don't know if they're trying to tell us something because like they've already gone through a couple of gens without giving us anything. So I'm just like, you wanna give us something here or um yeah, that'd be nice to see if they did that for us. Something else that I've been thinking about, and I'm still a little iffy on it myself, but I'm just debating it in my mind. I'd like your opinion on it. Um, light type Pokemon.
I think that's kind of what fairies are.
I feel like fairies is like the reverse of dragon, but I don't feel like we have a reverse of dark. We have like psychic and ghost. We have dragons and fairies, but I don't feel like we have a reverse for the dark type. So I'm I'm like, would a light
Because I would
type
have
be
said
cool?
that, like, because we don't have Mega Evolutions anymore.
Yeah,
I would have liked it if Mega Absol was Dark Fairy instead of Dark Nothing still. Because it's literally like, I mean, visually, it's just the Tao symbol, like yin and yang and shit like that. Like, I
yeah.
can have a light dark motif. If a light type did exist, then yes, that's what my regional absolute variant would be.
Like a dark light type, like an eclipse type.
Yeah.
Nice. That'd be cool.
Um,
Like I said,
I wouldn't say no.
I'm not saying that I want it. I'm just saying like, what's your opinion on that? Like, what would you feel about that? Because even I don't know for sure if I'd like it or not. But I'm just thinking like, would that be something worthwhile, to explore? Because they've already added a new type, so it's not like completely impossible.
Yeah. Um, Light, and there's always been like this buzz that like sound type should be a thing.
See, that's good.
It doesn't make a lot of sense, but I mean, just for the sake of having new types, I don't see why not.
Yeah.
Like, we already have moves that are sound based that have its own like side mechanics attached to it. Like,
Exactly.
why not just make it a whole thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
I would imagine though that light types would be annoying as fuck, because my first thought would probably be like, a lot of light type moves are probably going to decrease accuracy or some shit. It's like, nah,
Yeah.
I don't want that.
Yeah. But then I feel like light would be the equivalent of a dark type on its effect against psychic and ghosts. Light would have the same effect on, I don't know, let's say dragons and fairies. Like light would fuck them both up. You know what I'm saying? Like fucking fairies can't harm light at all. Like it's immune to it. Or dragons can't harm light or some shit like that. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, and then the other one does minimal damage while it completely wrecks it. Something along those lines. Maybe not those types specifically, but the same way that Dark has that ability on those other two. Something along those lines.
Say Dark should lose to Light.
No, I didn't say that.
Because, like, alright, because it's the whole dynamic of, like, haha, justice always wins, but there's also, like, the literal darkness isn't a force within itself.
Yeah.
It's kind of just the absence of light. You
Yeah.
introduce light, darkness is gone.
Yeah. Darkness. True darkness.
Darkness.
Everything goes back to
Darkness
Kingdom Hearts. I don't know. That was just an idea I had. It'd be an interesting concept to have a new type. Because the reason that I thought about that is because in the new trailer when they show like the field worth of like the big central area with all the different things there, there was like a shit ton of types in a circle, and it almost felt like a little too much. I mean, I guess there could be that many. I didn't take the time to look it through, but I was like, is there a chance that one of them is a new typing? And if there was the chance that one of them is a new typing, what would it be? And I know that type is a commonly suggested one, so that's why I was like, what do you think about that?
I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, because you see how there's like a shit ton of types in that circle. I'm not saying that that isn't the right amount. It's just for like a second, it did look like a lot could fit in there. So I was just like, I wonder if there's a chance that there could be a new one.
I'm gonna need to do some.
Yeah, but again, it's not that it's not that I'm suggesting that there is a new type. I'm just curious on which are.
I mean, we can figure this out right now. Okay, there are 18 types total. Let's see. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Nah, it seems like that's exactly 18.
You think so? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Damn.
Were you excited for a new type?
I was excited for the possibility.
Yeah.
I don't like that. Now I'm mad. It's like the first thing they show is like, hey, there's no chance that this is gonna be.
Yeah. Like I said, I didn't take the time to look. I just saw that and I was like, oh, that's a lot. I wonder if they're gonna try to sneak that in there or something, because like it goes by so fast you don't really get to see all the types in the circle. So I was like, I don't know, maybe they were just trying to do that on purpose, but it's whatever.
I initially didn't want to look just to hold on to hope. Now that I have.
What if like the new type is like in the center?
Like, actually, yeah, that is another thing. Dual type moves. I've learned that for a long time.
Yeah, because if you look at that, a lot of those do have like a triangle that overlaps like 2 or 3 types on them. That might be something.
Ooh, hold up. Technically, okay, so like there's the circle, right? And on the circle they have like each type, but in the middle it's like a white rectangle.
Yeah.
Like a circle between that.
So
it's like, you know, it's often said that every color combined comes up with white.
You never know.
Hidden in plain sight, maybe?
Maybe. You never know. We'll see. We'll see what they do. That would be annoying though, like if they do a new Eevee and the Eevee is the new type. Like, yo, what the fuck? We've been waiting for a dragon type all this fucking time. Stop it.
I'd be pissed if it wasn't a new type.
Like, I just want to fucking, I want a ghost Eevee, man. What the hell?
Even if it's not Eevee, some other Pokemon that kind of does the same thing.
Yeah.
But like for all the types that Eevee doesn't cover.
Yeah.
Actually, I think that's what type Null should have been.
Yeah, right? I just don't want it to be a legendary. Can we just get one that isn't a legendary that does that, you know? So that it could be something you could play with in the wild. I guess they do that with like the monkeys. I can't remember their names, like Panseer and whatnot. But you know,
I guess that's also what gave me the impression that like Drark and Fairy are supposed to be opposed, because we got Evoltol and Xerneas.
Yeah.
Fairy, so it's like, no.
But they have changed Pokemon types before, so it's not like, for example, like fucking Togepi used to be just Psychic before, and now it's Fairy. Yeah.
I think Togepi was just like normal.
Yeah, like normal or some shit, right? So there is a chance that if they do add light as an option, that they could just say, well, yeah, we said Fairy, but it's actually light or Fairy light, you know, some shit like that. Because they have done it before.
We added fairies because we already had fairies, damn it. Like, Granbull has always been the fairy Pokemon, but it's just not a fairy. It's It's like, okay, now it is.
Yeah.
There, we fixed it. God.
Yeah. Oh well.
But yeah, dual type moves, because I feel like we have so much that's kind of already like that. Like Scald definitely is like a water fire move.
Yep. 100%.
Water move that burns. It's like, come on.
Yep, I agree. Maybe that's the next trope that they try for the battle mechanics going forward. That'd be a fun idea, right?
Purple types Pokemon. Let's go. Pull the trigger. Pokemon with 3 types. Bring back bird type.
Bird type. All right. Well, I think we covered what we wanted to see out of the next generation, what we expect to see, what we hope to see, what we hope not to see, a little bit of the other generations and what we think, and the Pokemon history. So I think we covered a lot of the solid bases. Is there any other pieces of information you wanted to go over in regards to this?
I don't think I have like information per se.
Any final words in regards to this Generation 9?
Um, I guess okay. I kind of like made up a subject. You sort of asked this already, but I'm going to expand on it more. If you were just like, let's say, let's say the announcement didn't happen. They just announced that a Gen 9 was going to happen. We've seen absolutely nothing about it. What would you imagine like a Gen 9 that isn't the one we saw would be?
Like location wise or Pokemon starter wise, or what are we talking about?
Like, let's say you're the president of Game Freak and you have absolute creative control to what Gen 9 is going to be.
What I would want Gen 9 to be. That's. Oof.
Dream Gen 9.
Dream Gen 9. Wow. Um. I first of all, I think that I would revisit a lot of the old Pokemon games and kind of take away some of the features that I liked from them the best. I'm not talking about main like battle features like like evolution or anything like that, but just like little quirk materials or features that they had in the Pokemon games back then. I'd look to them to see what they had that works really well that I really enjoyed and which ones I wasn't too much of a fan of, and I'd look to either replicate them or make a better version of those for the game and to just make quality of life easier and more fun in the games going forward. um, my main focus would 100% be in battle because although I wouldn't know what Gen 9 looks like, I would know what Arceus looks like, and I would know my immediate concern that would have came immediately from seeing that. So I would have definitely focused on battling and bonding with your Pokemon being more of a thing. Um, I think what I would have done is because so this is something that I've been that's been in my mind that I don't know how to resolve or really how to explain too well. But something that I'm thinking is, at least for me, I don't know how everyone else played, but when I was playing, let's just say Emerald. When I was playing Emerald, if I came across a Pokemon, let's say Ralts, I came across a Ralts in the grass. That Ralts, no matter what it was the Pokemon that I was going to use. I don't care, its stats. I don't care its ability. I don't care anything. That's just it was a cool Pokemon to come across. It was a Ralts, and I wanted it on my team, and so that's what I'm going to use. It's not until post game that I decide that I'm going to focus on maybe getting a perfect IV routes or a shiny one with hidden ability or something like that. So um, that's what would make post game a bit more interesting for me is kind of going back and doing all those things. But through that first gameplay experience, I didn't really care so much for doing that. I just if I found something that I really liked, that's what I wanted to use. And because it was so seldom to come across it, it just made it so much more rare and fun to get, and it just put more value into it, in my opinion. But I'm thinking if it comes out something like Arceus, you're gonna see a shit ton of them, and it's going to be significantly easier to hunt for one with better abilities right off the bat early on. So I don't know what the right balance is, but I want there to be a balance where you can find something as rare as the routes would be early on in the game. Um, but I don't want I don't want I don't want to say the option, because you have the option in Emerald to hunt for it. You could have just stayed in the grass and kept trying until you find it. But I want it to be something where you find that one and you stick with it, because you're not going to find one for a long time, another one for a long time, to make it so that that Pokemon has its value. If you want to stay and grind for it, you can. But the point is that I want that same experience, because, for example, the Boizles in Legends of Arceus, you literally just, there's like a field of them, and you could just go up to them, throw a Pokeball in each of them, just throw them all, capture them all, and then you pick the one that has the best stats, throw the rest away, and and I don't know, it feels like the Boizles have absolutely zero meaning to me. It's just like I just got a shit ton and I just picked the best one. Whereas to before, I would catch one Boizel, the first Boizel I saw, and I fucking love that Boizel, and then that Boizel will fuck up every other Boizel that comes across afterwards, and that's it. It's me and this Boizel. I don't care what I come across, and it's not until post game that I worry about that. So I kind of want to keep that same feeling. I don't want to feel like I could just literally surf through all of it. And I guess it's a matter of preference, because some people would prefer that. Some people would prefer to just immediately find a shit ton and just pick one and go from there. It's just, to me, it kind of takes away from the bond building with that one Pokemon right off the bat. So and like I said, I don't know how to do it. I don't know if what I'm saying makes sense to you. It's just, there is a specific feeling I want from catching a specific Pokemon that I don't want to leave to just I could just do it whenever I want, catch whatever I want all the time, because I feel like it kind of takes away from that. So if there could be a balance there, that would be what I would focus on for the new Gen 9 game, is that feeling you get from catching a Pokemon is special. That would be my main concern. That, and then of course battling would be my second main concern. Um, I would try to put a post game like Gen 3 did, for Emerald. If I can put like a Gen 3 Emerald post game in there, I'd keep that. Um, uh, I like the idea of a large Pokedex. Um, and I can't really say about the location. I don't really know of a location that I'd really care for so much. Um, Open world works, I guess, but I wouldn't really mind something like the old style games either. So I don't know. That's just, and off the top of my head, that's the first thing that comes to mind, though. Those are my main things. It's just the battle mechanics and the way that you can find value in the Pokemon you come across right away.
Um. Okay. So as you're saying this, my amateur game dev brain is like firing off, and I'm kind of just like realizing like the hows and whys of what you feel, and like maybe ways to solve it. Like, because these are all right. Because we're a game design, we should be able to like, solve these problems.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is we are still talking about like a hypothetical.
Of course, yeah.
Gen 9, so I'm ignoring what we've already been shown.
Yeah.
But I think like a part of why you feel the way you do about the way you like catch Pokemon and treat them in terms of like can't really bond with them very well has to do with the fact that they are just roaming around in the open world, whereas when you're playing a normal Pokemon game, you have that experience of there's that moment when the random encounter kicks in, and it's like, oh shit,
yeah,
random encounter.
A surprise, exactly.
Pokemon's gonna be blah blah blah, and you completely lose that in the style that Legends Arceus have put out.
Exactly.
You see all the Pokemon that are readily available.
Exactly.
So I think a way to solve that would be grass everywhere. like not having fucking like just barren like spots where you see Pokemon in plain sight. The Pokemon will still be roaming around in the overworld, but you literally can't see them because the grass is too tall. And then you'll have like variation of grass heights, where it's like sometimes you'll be able to see it, but the Pokemon that you're looking for is probably not going to be there. The rarer Pokemon are probably going to be in the super thick grass where you can't see shit, and you're going to be in like immediate, imminent danger if you go in there. Because for all you know, there could also be like a fucking Apex Garchomp trying to kill you or something, and you wouldn't even see it coming. Like something like that. Hmm.
You know, it's funny, but I even considered this, and you might laugh. It's like imagine Final Fantasy X, where it's an overworld you can run around in, but as you're running, it's not grass or anything. It's just a random field, and then glass breaks, and then the fucking random freaking things just pop up, and you have to fight them and kill them. So you get the overworld experience of running around and seeing everything clearly, but then you still get the surprise aspect of coming across something that pops up at you. You don't get to see it overworld necessarily. Some you do, but for the most part, it's like still a surprise. I feel like that's kind of what I was hoping to still be able to get.
See, the problem with that is that you've essentially turned the entire overworld into a cave or surfing.
Yeah.
Which is probably like the worst, because if you're just trying to get from point A to point B and you have absolutely zero control of whether or not you encounter anything. Yeah. No,
I hated that in Final Fantasy X.
Encounters are just
I hated that so much in Final Fantasy X, but at the same time, I'm trying to figure out how to make it work.
Yeah, like in Final Fantasy X, because Final Fantasy X is pretty linear.
Yeah.
So there's not really much to explore. You're not losing anything except for like some time when you run into shit, and it is still annoying even with that.
Yeah,
but, yeah, I'm trying to find that balance. Because caves would definitely still have that function where it's like a shit random encounter. Because it's not like, Legends Arceus is still a turn-based RPG in a way when the battle is happening. So it's still possible. It's just that, you got dust clouds where it's like you can choose to encounter Pokemon there, and maybe the rare thing you're looking for is in it. Or you got to deal with the 3 billion Zubats that are going to just pop out of
nowhere. Yeah. That's funny. Alrighty. What about you? What would you like for a game?
So for me, completely ignoring all improbabilities, I probably would have made a Pokemon game that is as big as something like Breath of the Wild or Genshin Impact, where it's not so much wide open areas, but you have a ton of different cities, and each city has a gym, and maybe you'll find a gym randomly between cities, between routes and shit. And the objective is that you just gotta collect badges like you would normally do, but instead of having a dedicated route, you could go anywhere in any order.
Yeah.
And then do the Pokemon League, true open Pokemon.
Funny enough, I think that's how it's going to be too.
I think that's still a possibility for Gen 9. I just don't think they're going to do it that way.
We'll see. But okay, that's good. I'd like to see something like that. But all right, well, that was the podcast for Gen 9 predictions, thoughts, opinions, and full circles around how we got to it, including prior games and everything. So, yeah. I want to thank everyone that was able to tune in to the podcast and listen, sharing their opinions and thoughts and gripes, concerns, comments, and all that fun stuff. Very much appreciated. And yeah, hopefully we get something fun out of Gen 9 going forward. Aside from that, did you have any other closing remarks you wanted to say, Mike?
I do have one last closing statement.
Sure.
I can't possibly let this podcast end without stating this.
Sure.
While I did say that Gen 5 is my favorite gen, the best gen, objectively and undisputably, is Gen 2.
Okay.
You can't fight two regions, man.
You can't. You can't fight two whole regions. um, but yeah. So there you have it. Gen 2, the number one region of all times. Everything else is just trash, apparently. I'm just joking. But yeah.
Not as good.
But yeah, thank you again for everyone that was able to tune in. I hope you guys have a fantastic one. As a reminder, probably going to be doing some Pokemon Unite streams after this within the next hour or so, and we'll probably go for a few hours there, trying to hit to master. So we'll see if we can do that, and then we'll see what subjects we come up for next week if we are able to do that, so that we can do another podcast going forward from there. Probably around the same time, if anything, and we'll try to kick it off from that time as well. All right. Sounds good, Mike?
Yep, sounds good.
Sounds good. All right, well, everybody, thank you again. My name is Jose, a.k.a. Drark. Thank you so much for tuning in, and peace.
All right, good talks.
Good talks, good talks.